The Franklin County Fiscal Court is requesting the state local debt officer to approve the financial plan whereby the county proposes to issue its general obligation lease in amount not to exceed $8 million. The proceeds will be used to pay the cost of an energy conservation project and the acquisition of a fire truck. Are there any public comments at this time?
There were none received.
No public comments have been received. We'll hold on just a second to see if someone wants to comment before we end. Were they required to get it in at a certain time?
By 2 o'clock today.
By 2 o'clock today? Okay.
Yes.
Being the case that you were required to get your comments in by 2 o'clock today, and seeing none on the program, I then will declare the public hearing closed. So it is officially closed, and thanks everybody for being on. And we will have our regular fiscal court meeting at 5 o'clock in just a few minutes. And thank you for being here to be part of this public hearing. We are closed. Good afternoon. This is the Franklin County Fiscal Court for October the 1st, 2020. This is our work session. We welcome everybody. Before we get started into our agenda, we're going to be led with our invocation by Reverend Marion Taylor from the South Frankfort Presbyterian Church. Reverend Taylor, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you fine and see you as well.
Excellent. Okay. Well, it's a pleasure and a privilege to be with you all. I wish you all the best for your meeting. I apologize that I will depart after the invocation because I'm smack in the middle of writing this Sunday's sermon.
Oh, okay.
Spirit is with me, so I've got to get right back to that.
I understand that.
All right. Well, let's pray. Gracious God, thank you for this day. And thank you for the meaningful vocation of public service. Inspired by your vision for human community, may these leaders and these participating citizens strive always to improve in kindness, in fairness, in generosity, and in care for the most vulnerable among us. Help us all to bridge and reconcile conflicts among races and social classes, philosophies, genders, competing interests, so that this county becomes known far and wide as a place of peace and goodness. In all these ways, may we honor you in all that we do. In your holy name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Taylor, for those great words. Thank you.
Yes.
Let's hope that be the case, that we can be recognized for that. And we wish you the best while the Spirit's with you in writing your sermon for Sunday.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Okay. Before we get into the next item on the agenda, I want to say something about a longtime employee that has worked in two different departments for the county over the years. His name is Bobby Doss. We lost Bobby last week. Bobby retired from the road department and then went to work for several years now with Charlie Lewis at the parks as a groundskeeper. And Charlie or John Mitchell, Charlie and John Mitchell, or Stephen Hawkinsmith, if you were on, would you all like to say something about Bobby and the relationship you all had with him? Charlie, you want to go first?
Judge, can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you now, Charlie.
I apologize. I was on the phone with Kiwanis and Chuck Fletcher right there. He called me at the start of the meeting. Tell me again what you need me to do. I just stepped back in.
We want to recognize the loss of a great friend, a great worker for our the Franklin County Fiscal Court.
Yes, Mr. Doss.
Bobby Doss, yes. tell us about your working relationship with Bobby.
Sure, thank you. I appreciate you acknowledging him. Bobby worked for us for, gosh, ever since he retired from the road department several years ago, probably close to maybe even a dozen to 15 years ago, it seems like now, but he's been with us for over a decade, working seasonally, and he was kind of a jokester. You know, every year he would come in the spring and tell us that he wasn't going to work for us this year. And of course, we knew he was kidding. And then in the fall, he'd come in and want to know when he was getting laid off. But Bobby was very, very dependable, you know, and just one of those older gentlemen that took care of his equipment, cleaned it up every day, you know, checked the oil, you know, just little things that go a long way to, you know, and he kind of had his mower, you know, he didn't want anybody on his mower because he took care of it and he knew how to run it. And he wanted to make sure it was ready for him and ready to go. So, yeah, he's already missed. You know, we're scrambling around here, just trying to finish up the warm season, but super nice guy. My dad knew him, played softball with him. And Bobby actually rode with my dad back when I played Little League baseball to go watch me play baseball. So I've known him since I was a kid. So just a fine guy and definitely will be missed.
John Mitchell or Stephen, are you all on? Want to say something about Bobby? I don't have John or Stephen down yet. I guess they'll be joining us in a little bit. Well, if you all don't mind, let's take a moment of silence to keep our thoughts on Bobby Doss and his wife Marie and the family and the loss of a great friend. Miss Doss and family, we pray for you during this time, and we thank you for sharing Bobby with us over all these years, and we're so appreciative of what he has given to our county in helping us here at the Fiscal Court. God bless you and your family. Okay, with that being said, everybody, the next item on the agenda is authorization for approval of minutes from a regular meeting of September the 15th, 2020. Any questions on that? The next item on the agenda, Betty Jo, you have Jamie on the agenda. We've got some good news. Authorization to approve health insurance provider for our employees. Betty Jo.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
This is authorization to renew with Humana as the county's provider for health insurance for calendar year 2021. Jamie Bennett with Beam Group reached out to other providers for rates. We reached out to United Healthcare, Anthem, and Humana. Humana came in at the lowest rate for our insurance, which is 7%. The proposal was reviewed by our Health and Benefits Committee meeting on September 28th. We went over the financial impact. So the approximately, it's going to be about a $58,000 increase in next year's budget for the insurance, the 7% insurance. Actually, this came in at a very good rate. Nationwide right now, it's about 12 to 16% increase. So we're very thankful that Jamie and Beam Group came in at 7%. So the recommendation of the committee is to accept Humana proposal, which will be effective January 1, 2021.
Okay.
Also, too, the summary of benefits, there was no coverage changed. It's the same exact coverage that we will have in 2021.
Is that your recommendation too, Betty Jo?
Yes, that is the committee's recommendation to go with Humana. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
the Benefits Committee's recommendation as well. Well, I would like to, yeah, Squire Sebastian, go ahead.
Thank you, Judge. I sit on the Benefits Committee, and we had our meeting Monday, as our HR director has shared with us all. Since then, I've had the opportunity to participate in some statewide training this week. And in our training materials was information from the KCO Benefits Group. And I'll just hold this material up because I don't know who participated in the training. I know I did for some sessions this week. Anyway, you know, at every turn, we've heard from our staff and the judge talking about, and they've frequently spoken about the level of quality services that we have available to us through our membership in KCO, as evidenced by one of the bonding issues that we're going to talk about later on tonight. So I guess in an effort of due diligence, I reached out to KCO to discuss the employee benefits, then was put into contact with an employee there in the regional, a regional analyst, I guess is what they're really called. I'm not exactly sure of the title. Maybe it's a regional benefits advisor, I believe. So really what I was trying to do this due diligence is, in these tough economic times, it's not only incumbent upon us to consistently look for the best rates, which is certainly what we've been trying to do all along, but it's also the best level of coverage that we're trying to get for our employees. So by looking at maybe all the available options that are available to us, we can be sure that we're doing just that for our employees. BIM, as our HR director said, BIM had priced it on the universe of Franklin County, and it across the nation, it was noted in multiple meetings that we had that health insurance was on the rise. The universe that we work through with the group and the policy that we have now is only Franklin County. So it ranges from 170 to 175 employees that were quoted at the time. As I understand it, the benefits through KCO and the benefits group, they're going to price it out through a pooled universe of about 6,300 members across the Commonwealth, like other fiscal courts, other water and sewer sanitation departments, libraries, jails. I think emergency 911 was mentioned. I mean, there are several. And as I understand it, counties like Anderson, Scott, Taylor, Harrison, Mercer, some that are similar to us that we have heard about, and we're kind of in the same universe as far as the number of employees, et cetera, are already insured by this group. So I just wondered if we still had the opportunity, and I'd like to throw it out there to the court, to make sure that we have exercised our due diligence as a court and looked at all available options. And since this one has just come to our attention after the benefits committee met, you know, and we are all striving to do the best for our employees, to get them the best coverage at the best rate. Maybe it's incumbent upon us just to look into this just a bit further, because we already have one set of materials. This would give us another just to review. So I just throw that out there, and I appreciate the court's time in hearing that. Thank you very much.
Is Jamie on the line? Betty?
I don't see him, Judge. I've tried to text him. And
I don't see him online.
Yeah, okay. One of the things that we are concerned about, Betty, is open enrollment, right?
Yes. This is the first I've heard about it, was right now. So I'm a little set back on that we didn't discuss this during our benefits committee, and we need to move on this open enrollment because it's going to take me about 4 weeks. So
as I had shared, we had our benefits committee meeting on Monday. I participated in the training starting on Tuesday. That is where this material came to us. So I too have just gotten this. It was not something that I had prior to that. I personally paid to participate in some training. This material was in the training packet, so I just tried to follow up on it and followed up on it only today. So I'm trying to bring it as soon as I got it to share with the members of the court, because like you said, when I reached out to those folks, they said they would be able to meet with us next week and would be able to have a quote to us within a 2-week period. So I think that's a pretty quick turnaround time, as opposed to, I know we've worked on what's in front of us for several months. So that would be great. Since other communities, I think, are pricing insurance, that's probably why they're able to turn this around quickly for us. And I'm only suggesting that we do our due diligence because the key thing in the committee meeting was we want to provide the best quality insurance we can for our employees, and we're trying to keep the costs down. And I think at least looking at multiple plans as were presented to us and as could continue to be presented to us, we ensure that we do that. And I think that's all we're trying to do, or that's the only reason I'm bringing it forward, because I just found out about it.
Well, we did look at multiple plans. We looked at Anthem. We looked at United Healthcare as well. Squire Muller, you had your hand up. Sorry.
Thank you, Jay. I was just, and I was in the training also, and Squire Sebastian, I appreciate you following up on that. Betty Jo, have we ever talked to Keiko about this benefit?
I don't recall, Lambert and I have been here for 20 plus years. I don't ever recall that we've been with Keiko Insurance.
No, we haven't. Jamie Bennett's been our broker for about 17 years now. And he's always reached out to all the different providers and get us a good rate. So no, I've been here almost 8 years and we haven't reached out to Keiko or bid out for brokers. I didn't think we was going to be doing that. And I'm going to say I'm cautioning the court of pushing this open enrollment back, because I have to start open enrollment by October 19th. And it's going to take me about 4 weeks because of the COVID. And also Humana is preparing our documents, and Bean Group is preparing all the open enrollment. So we would need to know who would be preparing those. And I don't think we have time, honestly, because, and I understand, I appreciate Sherry bringing this to the court, but I think it's a little bit too late to be working on that for next year, because our timeline is ticking. And if I don't start open enrollment by October 19th, it won't be done for the first paycheck December 11th, because we have to get all those deductions in. And there's only 2 of us that takes care of 200 full-time county employees. So this is very disturbing to me.
Squire Tracy.
Quick question, Squire Sebastian. How many people did you say that was in the pool, the employee pool for the insurance per Keiko and then per the current provider?
What we were told, and I asked the question about the universe of the current provider, we were told the current universe is 170. The Keiko universe is 6,000, between 6,300 and 6,500. So the pool is larger. And that's why I was thinking that perhaps we should investigate it, because it may provide additional benefits that we may not have the benefit of having under the current plan, possibly at a better rate. But again, I can't say until we see it.
Yeah. Well, time is not on our side on this one. And
Houston,
who's
Jamie's getting on soon.
I'm on.
Okay. Hey, Jamie, thank you for being. Hey. Have you heard what Squire Sebastian's brought forward?
So Jamie, I don't know. I'm sorry. I didn't know that you were on or off the call. So at Monday's meeting, you know the discussion. You were there. You participated in them just like I did. Since that time, I have participated. I paid for some training and attended 3 days of training. And in the training materials that were provided to us, we got some information from the Keiko benefits group. And in that, they talked about the type of benefits that could be provided across the Commonwealth. So I'm only bringing that up because, one, I just got it, didn't have it during the benefit committee discussions. Don't know if we've ever looked into this And I know one concern of everybody on the benefits committee was providing maximizing the level of benefits to our employees while minimizing the cost. And that was the overriding concern I heard from everybody. How can we continue to deliver quality benefits and support our employees? How can we do it at the best possible rate? So I'm only bringing this forward because I don't know if this was included in the menu of options that you looked at, just so we can be sure that we're doing our due diligence as a court to try to deliver for our employees, but to deliver for our county. Thank you.
Yes, it's a good idea.
Well, remember, due diligence has paid off extremely well, because for 2 years in a row, we did not get an increase. This year it is at 7% when we heard the average is around 15. So that, I think that's pretty good. Squire Muller, did you have your hand up? No. Okay. Jamie, please respond if you would. Thank you for being on.
Not a problem. Without looking at what kind of material that you have in front of you, Squire Sebastian, I can't give you a very good answer as to have I looked underneath or looked at that option. In my tenure with the Franklin County Fiscal Court, which goes back to 1999, I've been through 4 county judge executives and several magistrates. I will tell you, in that time, the health insurance has been bid. CAECO was a participant in the bid process. Not only were they found during the bid process, and again, these individuals may no longer be at CAECO, I don't know, but the individuals that presented the bid to Franklin County at that time were not only found to not have a competitive bid, but also were giving the court false information. There are really only 3 health insurance carriers if the court intends to stay fully insured. By fully insured, you don't have risk. Those 3 carriers are Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Healthcare, and Humana. Those quotes are right there in front of you. Yeah. I also would like to point out to the court that since 1999, I know of at least 3 or 4 rate reductions and several rate holds. I would put that record in my work with the county since 1999 up against anybody's in the country. You're welcome to go talk to whatever broker you'd like to go talk to.
Well,
if you don't think that I'm bringing to the county value, then that's exactly what you should do.
Squire Sebastian, you're shaking your head.
Thanks, Judge. And sorry, Jamie, weren't on at the beginning of the call. It is not a matter of professional
ability,
reluctance. Okay, on my part, we've been at the table with our elbows, our sleeves rolled up, trying to do the best that we could possibly do. I'm only bringing this forward because it was presented after the benefits committee meeting, and it's just completely a matter of timing. The only reason I'm raising this and asking the question, because I would agree. The committee, we've met, 3 times over our health insurance in the last 2.5 months. And during that time, the first meeting back in June or July, you came in and said, looks like the rates are going to go up. And so when you came to us in August, you said, yep, they're going up across the country. I'm going to do my best for you. It's probably going to be about 12%. So the committee said, we know you will. You came back to us in September and said, you know what? I was able to get it down for you. I worked hard, had my sleeves rolled up, and I got it down to 7%. So it's not a question of professional integrity. I'm only bringing this up because I've only gotten it. I didn't know if we looked at this. I'm bringing it up for that reason. So perhaps because you weren't on the call immediately, you missed that part of the conversation.
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
I understand, Squire, but when the way it was, The way I took it, Squire.
Go ahead.
The way I took it, Squire, was I was immediately on the defense that I had not done my due diligence in obtaining the best rate that was possible for the county.
No.
If you would have told me back in August that we were going to get a 12% rate increase, I would have said okay, and I'm thrilled with a 7. But you're also coming off 2 years of rate reductions. That doesn't happen.
And again, I've sat at the table just like you. I recall all of that data, and again, happy to have that. The only thing I'm saying, the only comment I made, and again, because you didn't have the benefit of being on to hear the full range of the conversation, is that because I've participated in a training since we met, this was brought up. I'm only bringing it to the court just to see if it's something that we have looked at. That's the only comment I'm making. Again, it's nothing about professional integrity. And I understood you to say Keiko has given false information. Well, at every other turn, you know, I've heard folks talk about how Keiko has done such a great job for us. So that is somewhat alarming.
And I'll be happy to share the parties involved with you in private sometime, Sherry.
I don't, let's not go there. It is my opinion that we have on the table a very good program, good health insurance package in front of us. It went up 7%, and Jamie, you negotiated that down from 12 to 7. That's excellent. But this is not about us. This is about our employees. And our employees have had this for a number of years. And I know Squire Muller has said many times, this is a great program. Squire Muller, as a matter of fact, I think you've changed and you've gotten on this because it is such a good program. You've bragged about what we offer our employees. So let's not lose sight that this would not be easy for our employees if we had to switch again and go all the way back around. So let's put this on the burner. Hang on, Susan, 1 second. Let's put this on the burner. Let's look at it next year. But after we've already come to court, we've got it on the agenda to vote on, and this is our employees, is what they have in all the situations that are behind that. I think it would be incumbent upon us to think about them first. Susan. I can't hear you, Susan. Can't hear you, Susan.
Absolutely, Judge. Thank you. Certainly the interest of the mind, and certainly Squire Sebastian, I know you're very conscientious, as we all are on this court, for everything that we're doing on behalf of the taxpayers, including the 200 plus families that are part of our workforce. So, I have been here a number of years, and I have worked with Mr. Bennett multiple years, and I've learned a lot. And I'll say this, he has been an advocate for every employee on so many levels that is above and beyond being a broker. Okay, his role as a personal advisor and in personal circumstances and sensitivity to the employees and their needs has been above and beyond. In a time where everything's being pushed towards self-service and self-help and do-it-yourself, he has had people's backs and held their hands over and over again. Through his due diligence and his efforts as a county resident and a county taxpayer himself, with a business that is located in Franklin County for so many years, he has fought for rate stability, and he has provided Franklin County with a great plan year after year with so much stability and just a phenomenal cost savings for, to be able to provide a 100% paid plan for the employees. It's been a while since I have been to a treasurer's conference because of the emergency, but in the years that I was present, I can tell you, I do remember that Franklin County was we were the oohs and ahs about what our rates were. It was like, it can't be that low. It can't be that low. And many of those counties had plans through the program. I'm sure the CAECO they do have a great program on many levels of service, but another factor is that most of those counties and those programs are operating on a fiscal year, not a calendar year. And we have a calendar year service. So some of this that's being promoted during this time with your all's training is probably based on the fact that they're thinking of budget years on fiscal years that's more doable. So that, that's really not practical at this time at all. So and not only that, you have to work with a specific advisor through CAECO, and you may not call them a broker, but it's still an individual, and we would be hard pressed to find anyone to fill Mr. Bennett's shoes in that regard.
Squire Sebastian.
So again, I'm just going to reiterate, I think that one of the first things I said through this conversation was that the committee was concerned about bringing the best rate possible, but also the best level of coverage. This is not to say anyone is better than another. And if someone took that I said that was certainly did not come out of my mouth. I too am concerned. Judge said exactly the thoughts on my heart. I'm concerned about employees, trying to make sure that they get the best possible coverage at the best possible rate. I only got this information, so I'm just sharing it with the court. So that's it in a nutshell. There's really no more to share about it at this point. But it is incumbent upon us, if we participate and we pay for these trainings and we go to them, to bring information back to the court that could be beneficial for our employees and our constituents. And it sounds like me doing so today is fallen woefully short of what was intended to do. And that's all I ever do. I'll continue to do that. Sorry if it's been misconstrued some other way.
Well, now let's take a step back a second. We have on the agenda authorization to approve health insurance provider for county employees for calendar year 2021. As I bring that up, you're talking about possibly bringing somebody else in. So it's timing. We can look at it next year. We've done well with Humana. Our employees like Humana. It's obviously a very good program. So when it comes to next year, and Jamie said, say to Jamie, want you to look at some others. There we go. Jamie, you don't mind looking at CAECO if you're asked to, do you?
Absolutely not.
Okay, there you go. Squire Muller.
While we have Jane and Squire Sebastian, thank you for researching that, and Susan and everybody, thank you for the input. Being on the benefits committee, I mean, it's timing. I think it's everything on this one. Jamie, I mean, if they told Squire Sebastian 2-week turnaround, is there still time just to talk to them to see? Because from what I've gathered, I think what she just said, and Squire Tracy also asked, is it's based on 6,000 people. Where when I joined the court, that's one of the things you and I talked about. Our company pays a whole lot more because we're less than 20 people. The county's based on 200. So if CAECO is bringing 6,000 people in that pool, is there a chance? And I'm sure CAECO is still offering, Humana and Anthem and United Healthcare. Do you think, just in your professionalism, that there's a chance that I think all we're talking about is money at this point? It's not what you do. I mean, you do a phenomenal job. No one's going to argue that. I think it's just a matter of money, taxpayer money. Do you think, because of that bigger pool, they would come back with a better rate?
We're talking apples and oranges. You're talking about going into a pool that CAECO has of 6,000 people. And that is what's called self-insuring. You're joining that pool.
Which the
right
city
now you are fully insured with Humana. and you are pooled with other employers who are fully insured with Humana, but you're running solely on your numbers alone when it comes to your experience. Your experience over the last 20 years is what's driving rate. You had one or two large claimants in 2020. That's being reflected in your 2021 premium.
That's me.
But joining a pool of 6,000, you're talking about also joining risk. You're assuming risk if you're going with Keiko. Are you following me, Michael?
I'm trying to. I don't understand. We're assuming risk if we were to look at Keiko. I'm a little confused on that one. And I'm not trying to be argumentative. I'm trying to, and I know this bad timing, and we thought we had this all figured out.
Okay. There's not. If the simple question is, can you may be able to get a rate from Keiko in the next 2 weeks? Do I have time to take a look at that prior? Yeah, I could look at it, but I can't give you a full analyzation in a day or two.
Analysis.
And you're also going to change brokers. I don't have, Keiko works with Keiko agents. They're solely employees of Keiko.
Okay, thank you.
And Jamie, this pooling is what the city does, and
they're self-insured, Judge.
Okay. Well, is that not the way? No, that's different from what Keiko is offering in a little bit different way. All right. Before we go on, I want to bring something else up that I think is important. As you've heard me say, you've heard Squire Sebastian say that this is about the employees. As part of it being about the employees, last spring, the original budget had in it a 2% raise for cost of living raise. We had to take it out because of COVID. If this goes through, there are a total of 23 people or 23 families that will have a raise per month under this new plan. Not because we want it to be, but because that's what the 7% does to these families. If you have a family plan, you're going to be charged $51 a month more than you were this past year. There are 7 people on the family plan. If you are an employee and you have health insurance for your children, and there are 13 employees that have that, you'll pay $31 or $33 more a month. And the same way with the spouse, and there are 3 of them. So a total of 23 people. The way we budgeted for this, we thought it was going to be a lot higher cost. It'd only be about $6,000 or a little bit less than that. If we, what I'm proposing is that we cover the incremental costs for these 20 people, the $50 a month for the 7 family members, the $33 a month for the employee that has spouse and children. And I say to this, it would be if the people the 150 people that have our insurance at no cost, the cost for a single would go up $28, but we're covering it for the singles. We're not covering it for these other people. So in my mind, if we're going to look at how we can help the employees who didn't get a cost of living raise, and we're helping the singles out, but we're going to charge the others, I think we ought to cover the amount that it's going up, cover this cost. That's my suggestion to the court. I brought that up to the committee. It didn't go anywhere, but that's my suggestion. Squire Booth.
Well, I understand what Jamie is saying about the experience. What he's saying is that, and I want to apologize because I am one of those people that caused, the experience factor to be a part of this, because my health care was $750,000. Can you believe that? But I am doing fine, and Humana has taken good care of me. That's what he means about experience. And that just got to me when he said that, because he said one or two big draws on that insurance policy. I had to be one of them. So,
Squire Muller, do you have your hand up?
If I could ask the county attorney a question. Rick, it's my understanding, just dealing with benefits and things like that, that you can't offer certain benefits just to a small group of people. Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
I think maybe that question ought to be asked to Jamie, Squire Muller.
Legally, how do you know?
Tell me again what the question was.
It's my understanding, just dealing with benefits over the years, that legally you cannot offer benefits to just some people and not across the board. There's a legality there.
There are some discrimination rules that apply, but as long as you're consistent within the plan and what you do, for example, you can't just charge one individual that works in one part of the organization one amount and another in another part of the organization a different amount. But as long as you're remaining consistent with what you're doing, for example, the cost of a family is X, the cost of single is Y. As long as you're doing that and it's deemed affordable, you're fine.
Okay, thank you. I guess, I'm thinking of Susan made a comment during the benefits committee that, we'd have to rewrite the policy, and I don't know what it says in the admin code. And one thing that you did teach us, Jamie, is I'm all for helping people out, but, just because we saved a little bit right now, it might get us in another year or two. And I know we're looking at some financial problems overall, not just on this line item. So, Rick, are you still with us? Could you help me on this one?
Yes, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm over here at the office and doing one too many things while listening in. What was the question there, Squire? I'm sorry.
Basically, on a benefits thing, can you give extra benefits to just a small amount of people, not everybody? I guess I'm worried about like discrimination, things like that.
Yeah, that was what was behind the Affordable Care Act. That everybody would be in the same pool.
You can definitely. Well, I fear there's a loaded question and there's going to be some devils in the details. You can make decisions or offer benefits based upon behavior. For example, you can offer discounts based upon certain conduct, certain people. For example, like the state has tobacco use rates versus non-tobacco use rates. You can get discounts because of healthy factors, like we had in some cases. If you participate in certain programs such as Living Well Promise, et cetera, your health insurance is cheaper. That's not discrimination. That's based upon risk. Discrimination is things that are prohibited for providing based on intrinsic attributes, race, sex, religion, national origin, things like that. Those are prohibited. It's not prohibited to say if you do X and you stay healthy, you're charged less insurance than you would otherwise. If that's the question, there's no issue that's permitted because it's based on the cost of a given risk that they're insuring for. Is that the question you had, Squire?
That's not it.
Well, I guess the question is, if we're just covering some financial things for the family plan people only and not everybody across the board, it just seems like it's not. I just look at everything just from what I've dealt with benefits over the years. I'm just worried.
Let me say this. We are covering single recipients of our insurance. They are paying zero. And the cost of their plan is going up. We are covering that. They will continue to pay zero. What I'm asking for is the 20 individuals that are paying for their insurance. So they are paying $800 a month. They are paying, $800 a month, $835 a month. So they are already paying. All I'm saying is that we cover the increase amount that the 7% is bringing on. In the case of the family, it's $51 a month. In the case of the spouse, it's $33 a month. We cover that. Squire Sebastian.
What they're already paying.
Thank you, Judge. Now, Squire Muller, I'm trying to process what you said. So if I'm saying it incorrectly, and Counselor Sparks, I know you said you were preoccupied by something else. I'm just going to try to paraphrase what I've heard Squire Muller say, and if I'm saying it wrong, because I'm trying to make sure I understand it. Currently, the county is paying X rate. Every county employee gets the benefit of using the same amount of dollars. And let's say it's $450 across the board. Let's say that's exactly what an individual policy is. Let's say that's that amount would then also be applied to the other supplemental plans. And so the way I'm understanding Squire Muller's question is, if you increase that rate for not every tier, but specific tiers, are you giving additional benefits to some that you're not offering to others? That's the way I'm hearing it, but I might be hearing it wrong. So tell me if I'm hearing that wrong.
No, that's what I'm getting at, because from what I'm understanding, the 23 people that have the family plan, we're still paying for theirs, correct?
No, they're paying. They're paying the extra amount. But
that's for their family members, not them.
Do what?
Yes.
I said that's for their family members. We're still paying for that employee across the board.
Yes.
Yeah, but the increase, just like the single is $28 increase. We're covering that.
Right, but we're covering that
covering it for the family. We're not covering it for the family. We're adding it to their cost.
But we're covering it for the employee with the family.
No, we're not. The $51 is where they're having to pay it. If you have a family plan, you're going to have to pay $51 a month more because of the 7% increase. Jamie, am I saying this right or am I wrong on this?
Judge, this is Betty Jo. You are saying it right. If someone has a family plan, the 7% increase, they will be paying $51 more a month.
You're both right. You're both right. You're paying the cost of a single to that family, but they are paying a $51 increase on their dependents. So, I mean, you're both right. You both make a good argument.
Thank you.
But Squires, neither one of those are discriminatory, because if everybody gets the same benefit, and then if they add additional people, family plan or otherwise, they've got to pay it out of their pocket. I know my insurance with the state, if I select it, they provide X number of dollars. And then if you add, you know, Parent Plus, et cetera, you have to add in the extra for above and beyond. But that's, if the issue was that discriminatory, the answer to that's no. It's not discriminatory at all.
The answer is no, and the state is subsidizing the other tiers a little bit as well too.
Squire Moore, thank you.
Judge, I think you were looking at it wrong. There is an individual that's getting a benefit because his is increased too, but we're taking care of that, but we're not taking care of the $51 for the whole family. Maybe we can come up with a compromise and say $25 towards any additional plans other than yourself. Just putting that out there.
Susan?
Yeah, to address Squire Muller's part of his question, and Jamie, you're on to help me with this as well, but we have a cafeteria plan document. So I don't believe you can take action, and Rick, you can help me too here. I don't think you can take action on this right now because I think you would have to amend your cafeteria plan document, and that would be the action that you would have to, if you're going to be changing any amount that the county is paying towards health insurance for individuals. If you're planning to supplement in some way.
I don't believe that's. I don't think that's what's before the court today.
Exactly. That's my point. So I don't think that you can make a decision about supplementing or subsidizing the marginal supplemental costs for family plans or otherwise today. You would have to look at the cafeteria plan and amend that if you want to pay $25 or $50 a month towards family plans.
May I make one comment?
Please.
Everyone has got a valid point, and there's an argument to be made for each. You know, help the ones out that have dependents to cover. It's not fair to the folks that have single. All those arguments have some validity, but my belief is, and what I've strived to do throughout the last several months in working on your renewals, my emphasis has been on keeping everything as close to the same as possible. We've all been through a very rough year with COVID-19, along with, you know, as was stated earlier, there's some of us have had some health issues this year, but I think the more that we leave benefits in place with as little change, also knowing the obstacles that we're going to face during open enrollment, the better off that you'll be in 2021 administratively. And that's it.
I'm not getting any traction. Lambert, I will say I thank you for your compromise. I think it's I'm trying to stand up for the employees. I'm trying to, we've talked about this. It doesn't seem like, I don't understand why this has got to be so hard, but it is. And unfortunately, this is just another one of those things. So to those 20 employees, it looks like it's going to move forward. And we go to the next item. The next item is authorization
Judge.
Who says that? Squire Tracy.
Yeah, quick question. I know last year during this time, the biometric screening was an issue for some. Is that done over can you go over a computer and do that, or is that an actual thing?
If you wait a minute, that's the next item on the agenda. That's going to be the wellness, non-wellness plan.
Yes, sir.
We'll talk about that. Squire Blackburn. Can't hear you, Squire.
I just wanted to speak to your recommendation of trying to stop the gap in those particular employees' increase in their premium. So I don't know if Rick got a concise question on the background of information that was had, but what I was looking at was a spouse goes up $33, children go up $30, a family goes up $51. Am I correct in saying you wanted to do 33 for that spouse, 30 for the child, 51 for the family, and keep everybody from having an increase?
That's exactly what I was trying to do.
Okay, so I think that's a good idea, but at the same time, as I think Squire Muller was pointing out, giving different amounts to different folks can be problematic. So I think that's something that we could bring up on an agenda in the near future and discuss it.
Well, if it's problematic, I don't think we've gotten a clear. Jamie is saying one thing. I think Rick is saying the same thing. Jamie's saying that it's not problematic. If it is, I apologize. Jamie, do you think
this is Betty Jo. It's not problematic because I also want to point out to the court, people that is retired reemployed, we have to pay over $700 to reimburse their health insurance.
A month. So
to answer your question, that's what we're currently doing now. So it is not problematic.
We're paying $700 a month, not just $700. It's more than $7,000 a year.
Correct, per employee that is retired reemployed, and we have about 9.
Okay, I think the next person in line is Squire Sebastian.
Thank you, Judge. Jamie, I just want to hear what it was that your final comment was just a moment ago, so I can make sure I understood that. Did you say that it's better to stay where we are rather than make changes? Because when I brought up the CAECO plan, everybody said we don't have time. I'm just trying to make sure I understood what you said as a matter of timing. That's all. I'm just trying to clarify it and be sure, because I'm hearing the judge saying that we're not trying to work with county employees when, you know, I brought something immediately out of the gate saying we're trying to work with county employees, and now I'm hearing that we're not trying to. I'm trying to hear from the broker that I've been told we can't look at another plan that potentially could offer more benefits at a better rate, potentially not. So I just want to make sure I understand what we're talking about now, because we, to use the judge's phrase, we have circled the wheel a couple of times. Thank you.
Squire, I'm saying that administratively, there would be some changes, as Susan was talking about. You would have to do amendments to your cafeteria plan, but we could, if you wanted to change the amounts that were being contributed to each employee that had dependents, if you wanted to change the amounts, it could be done. But in the interest of keeping things as they are and less changes for Betty Jo and Vicky, who have to do all the payroll deductions and setting them up in the system. Also, the open enrollment that's going to be involved, the less changes we have, the better. Every other benefit that is out there for a county employee, except the health care, the rate has remained the same. And that's been my goal, you know, for months, is the less change we have, the less headache it'll be.
Okay, Squire Moore, thank you. I'm sorry to keep you waiting.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Judge, I don't think giving a benefit to a group would be wrong, but where it would be wrong if you said Harvey's a great employee, let's pay his wife's benefits or something. That's where you'd be wrong. Doing it for a whole group, I don't see any problem with it.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. You and I and Squire Blackburn are, I think, on the same page on that.
But y'all, here's maybe you might be on the same page, but clearly you're looking at a different book. That's not the question before the court today. The question for the court today is who's going to be your insurance provider in the upcoming year. How you choose to address it, fund it, et cetera, is going to have to be addressed at a different time. That's not the discussion at this point.
Well, we're past that. This is looking at if their votes were there, we would have an amendment to that to it. So we have done that before, and that's where this was heading. But it's as Squire Sebastian said, this wheel keeps going round and round. So whatever. Squire Tracy.
Thanks, Judge Wells. Obviously, you know, everyone's here is talking about insurance and money. I feel like we owe it not only to the taxpayers of Franklin County, but to the hardworking employees of Franklin County to at least look into it. I know Jamie said that, yeah, you know, it could be done. And I just think we should look into it. If we can save money and not sacrifice benefits or coverage, I just think we should look. My opinion is I think we should look into it.
You mean look into covering the cost?
The KCO plan, sir. We've heard how great KCO and their services are. So that's just where I'm at, sir.
Now we're circling the wagon again, because I thought we were past that one. We were past that. Squire Booth?
Yes. I think that we should have a bid by KCO for their pool. I understand what Jamie is saying, our broker, present broker, is saying about we are a known entity to Humana through our years with them. So they are giving us benefit. But with 6,000 payees into the pool that the money's going to be taken out of to pay for health care, it does make sense that 6,000 people will make, that's, you know, the Affordable Care Act was on that. I hate to keep bringing it up, but that was what that was based on. If everybody had one pool, everyone was paying into it, that was a lot more money to give back out.
Jamie, thank you, Squire. Jamie, so what I'm hearing the squires say, the smaller the pool, that's the better. But that can also crush you if you only have a small pool and somebody gets really sick in that small pool and has a $400,000 or $500,000 bill. You're crushed in a smaller pool, aren't you?
It's not the $4,000 or $5,000 bill. And let me say this: the court's welcome to go get a bid from KCO and 6,000 people. The cost of the real issue is the cost of health care. And if you all think by getting in a pool with people in Magoffin County or Casey County or Montgomery County is going to help your rate, I encourage you to go look at that. I don't see that happening. You guys are welcome to go, KCO. I just I'm kind of I don't know. I'm kind of in shock knowing that what your history has been since 1999. I'm kind of in shock that it would be the belief of the court that you needed to go shop with KCO, but I encourage the court to do so. I think you'll be surprised at what you find.
Okay, we need to find out.
We can do that, court, but keep in mind this is October 1st. We should have been discussing this in April if we was going to be looking at bidding it out with KCO. And also, Jamie, I have a question. You take care of all of our bills and claims. We have employees that's getting billed incorrectly from Frankfort Regional, and you actually take care of those claims in the billing. You also take care of the short-term disability claims. You drive 2 hours to help a county employee. Judge, I'm just asking you, who would do that? we don't have the staff to do that. And
know.
Jamie takes care of all of that for us. So, I mean, I'm more than happy to look at this next year so we would have time, but this is not the time to be making changes. Our employees don't want to be changing insurance carriers, you know, at this time. I know that. You can ask them. And that's why we asked Jamie for a little as changes as possible. But also, if you're planning on looking at KCO, which that's the court's decision, we might need looking at a new full-time employee on our staff to handle the stuff that Jamie handles.
That's another
as our broker, okay? Because you know, we're not allowed to get overtime right now, and Vicki and I, with this process, it's more of a process of just changing insurance carrier. To me, it would be a burden on the county employees right now to change insurance. Not only we don't have the staff if Jamie's no longer our broker, I will be asking for another full-time staff to handle the bill, the claims, the short-term disability. So, because we can't do it.
More.
Yeah, I think we need to put this thing to bed. I appreciate Squire Sebastian bringing it forward, but there's no way we can do that this year. But we can very well look at it next year. That's all.
I agree with you 100%.
Y'all, let me just interrupt. The issue before the court today is vote up or down. You're going to renew or not. That sums up your question in today's problem.
Thank you. And again, I only brought this to the court today because I participated in training after the benefit meeting. This was included in our packet. I shared it for informational purposes. I didn't ever dream that this length of conversation would go without doing it. So, so I just share it for that reason. Sorry, everybody.
Okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go ahead, move on down the line. When it comes to voting for this, you can vote it up or down. If you voted down, have an alternative. We can't. Let's just move on. And we've heard the reasons why not to do it. I really haven't heard a reason to do it other than to explore. And if that's what you want to do, we'll let the majority rule on that. The next item is authorization to approve a wellness, non-wellness rate for county employees. Betty Jo and Jamie.
Currently, we have a wellness and non-wellness monthly rate for county employees. This is to continue the current wellness, non-wellness rate. Right now, we're asking employees to engage in a healthy lifestyle by participating in Go 365 to help keep our premiums down. The fiscal court implemented a wellness, non-wellness rate in 2019. And if employees are not participating in Go 365, they would be charged $50 the following calendar year. The Health and Benefits Committee met on September 28th to discuss the continuation of the wellness and non-wellness rate for county employees. The committee approved continuing the current rate. So basically nothing would change for next year. They would still need to get online, participate in Go 365, and do the health assessment. And to answer Scotty Tracy's question, we still are going to have biometric screenings on site this upcoming year with on-site solutions. The one that did it last year, they can do it in a safe environment due to COVID. So we will be having those hopefully starting in March and April, and hopefully we're going to have about 10 or 12 biometric screening dates this year, so we can hopefully get all of our employees to do the biometric screenings. It's easier sometimes when we have on site, so they don't have to take off work and go get a physical. So currently the committee is just asking to keep it the same, not to add anything extra for next year, as long as they participate and Go 365. And actually the county employees has been doing pretty well with this. I think we're only down to about 15 out of 200. So that's really good number.
Muller.
Thank you, Judge, and thank you, Betty Jo. I just want everybody to realize that when the committee met, we just want our employees healthy. At the end of the day, it's not about the money. It's about being healthy so Jamie can bring us good rates. You know, the Go 365 is so easy to use. I bet Squire Moore is even using it. So that I just wanted to say that it's really, you know, we want everybody healthy, and that's all I wanted to say.
Okay. I want to say this, Betty, I don't think anybody on the screen knows how hard you work for the employees and what you do to help the Squire Moores who have to sign up during this process. And there's a bunch of them that need help. You're there helping them sign up because it saves them money. It will cost them more money per month if they don't sign up. But you're there to help them, and that's what this process, what we've been talking about, is this enrollment time. That's when you use that time to help people get signed up, to talk with them, to see what their needs are, and you don't get enough credit for that, but you should get a lot of credit for it, Betty. And I want to say personally, and I hope the court will too, say thank you for all that you do to help the employees here that work here. Thanks.
I appreciate that. And I also want to, Vicki Webb helps me tremendously. She signs up people every day and walks them through the app. So it takes a team effort for myself. So I actually want to thank Vicki Webb because she sits down, goes over with them on the phone and helps them also. So it's a team effort. So I appreciate that. Thank you all.
Thank you, Vicki Webb, too. Sorry, I didn't mention you at first, but I do know that you do a great job, too. So thank you for that. Let's move on to the next item. The next item is the second reading and approval of an ordinance approving a lease for the financing of a project, providing for the payment and security of the lease, creating a sinking fund, and authorizing the execution of various documents related to such lease. Susan, do you want to speak? Do you have anything to say about what's going on this process?
We had a public hearing today. There were no public comments, but that is part of the process for the borrowing and the notification process we go through, qualifying with Department for Local Government for counties. So again, this is an up to amount. It's not a set amount. So this is, again, another step in that process of preparing to issue the bonds for upcoming projects.
Okay. Any questions on that one? I know this is the second reading of it. The next item is second reading and approval of an amendment to ordinance number 2, 2020 relating to the budget for fiscal year 2020 and 2021. Susan?
The Department for Local Government approved our request and our funding mechanism. So it's a check mark and ready to go.
Okay, that's part of it too. Thank you, Susan. The next item on the agenda is first reading of an ordinance amending ordinance number 7, 2001 relating to electrical inspections and fees. Mr. Hewitt, you've been asked to get this done for a long time, and you and Eric have worked together, and you've come up with fees that are the same in both in the city and the county.
Yes, Judge. Good evening, court. Mr. Cockley is on the meeting this evening, and I would invite his comments at any time. So this is a proposal to amend the fees that were most recently adopted in 2001. Prior to that, the current ordinance amended those fees from 1993. So this is the second attempt or the second proposal in 27 years to modify these electrical inspection fees. This proposal represents a repeal of the fees in the existing ordinance and a simplified version of the new fees being proposed. The city and county planning directors have met with the chief electrical inspector with Franklin County. We did get insight into his recommendation to the proposed fees. We believe that it is fair and equitable. We have found that Franklin County is lower than many jurisdictions in our area. And I'm pleased with what we've come up with. And I would like to yield the rest of my time to Mr. Cockley.
Welcome, Mr. Cockley.
Thanks for having me. Always enjoy coming back to see my fiscal court family. I don't have a lot to add. I would just start with, I appreciate the open communication from the judge and Robert working with me and Tommy and everybody on our end to try to simplify this for all of our local contractors, developers, and homeowners. I would only just share with the court as you consider this, that once again, as part of our motivation for this, and in addition to adjusting the fees relative to how long it's been since they've been changed, that we believe we are still in line or lower than most of our surrounding communities. And I'll just share with the court that I have at least shared the proposed fees as you're looking at them today independently with the Board of Commissioners, and I haven't gotten any indication that they would not also support these fees, so that we can hopefully do that after you all have your chance this evening to look over them and finish the job of keeping them the same. So I'll yield the floor, and Robert and I can take any questions you all may have.
Squire Muller.
Yeah, thank you, Judge. And Eric, thank you for being here. And Robert, thank you for your work on this. Do we have anything to compare to as far as surrounding counties, as far as what their rates are? Would y'all have any information like that? And I appreciate y'all working together and kind of getting this on a same level, for Frankfort and Franklin County.
I do have that information in my electrical fees folder here. I did not scan it in preparation for that question. It was discussed with the Finance Committee over prior meetings, the most recent being July 29th of 2019.
Okay.
And I would also add, Squire, that when we started looking at this, one of the things that I discovered that makes it a little difficult to compare these is that where some of our fees, for example, our planning and zoning fees, what we call them and what they represent are fairly uniform when you look at other communities, so it's really easy to pull those up. Some of these electrical permit and inspection fees, when we began to look through other communities, it gets real apples and oranges, what they call each thing, how they break it down, how they do re-inspections. It's real hard to go unit by unit, and look at this particular permit or inspection and this particular one in the different jurisdictions. It's difficult to get a good feel sometimes.
Okay, thank you.
Squire Sebastian.
Thank you, Judge, and thank you, Planning Director Cockley, for joining us tonight. I have pulled out this document, and I have it in front of me, and there's some language I just want to ask about just for my own clarification. So in the now therefore clause, which is section 3, which will be the first page of the document, it includes some language that says any certified electrical inspector of the Franklin County government. So that's the wording, and it's listed in there twice. Once government's capitalized, once government is not. And then it says, so does that mean this language includes or precludes a contractor should Franklin County choose at any point ever in its process this method to complete the work? Would it include a contractor or exclude one? If that language stays, I just want to understand that.
It would exclude a contract inspector. Franklin County is a closed jurisdiction. In order for a contract inspector to be authorized to perform inspections, it has to be authorized by the chief electrical inspector.
So it's been discussed many times. So I would like to, is there a way that we can ensure that we have the full range of whatever may come at some point? I know at present or yesterday, it was a staff person. Next year, 2 years from now, who knows? Because the market changes so frequently as to how we need to bring labor in and out to suit the benefits and needs of our residents. So how can we alter this language to make sure that we have the full range of what is needed to do this work? So that's one question. Let's maybe take that up, and then I have one more. Thank you.
So if you don't mind, hold on a second. We're going actually into agenda item 8, authorization to approve amendment for interlocal agreement with the city of Frankfort for providing electrical inspector services within the jurisdiction of the city. We are really I have not moved on from item number 7.
I know.
Relating to electrical inspections and fees.
Sure. I understand. All I'm doing, Judge, is reading the language that's in item 7. I've read it out loud. And I've called attention to the court to where it's at twice in that section. So I was trying, as I said when I started the conversation, I'm trying to understand what that means. Does it include or exclude? Because I just want to make sure that I understand it. I don't know if anybody else on the court wants to know about that, but for me, it's an important issue on this.
Okay. Are there any questions about the fees?
Sorry, Judge, I still have one more. Is that okay if I go ahead with the other one?
Well, can I weigh in here, and I will promptly. Betty Jo, are there any special amounts that can give for mental health services from extreme stress in fiscal court meetings? Because I'm pretty sure that's going to be an amount to be billed. I don't read this as that restricted paragraph, Robert, and I apologize. Any inspector under the auspices who are hired, retained, or sent out as an agent or a designee of Franklin County government is covered by Section 3. I'm not reading that as restrictive as perhaps Squire's reading it. So
no,
I don't think that's an issue, Sherry.
Can I say, Counselor, I'm reading it just like you are, but
no. That's why I'm not reading it restricted.
I'm reading it exactly the way you're reading it. That it is not very narrow. That it is broad. I heard
right. That's what I said regarding Robert's interpretation. If it were an entity, either employee, agent, contractor, minion, designee, ambassador, whatever it might be, and however you characterize it, if they're under the auspices and authority of Franklin County government, they would be permitted to do this. That's kind of I'm not reading it restrictively in answer to your question.
No,
I don't read it that way.
And I agree with you, but I heard our staff say that they were reading it in a restrictive way. So I just wanted to clarify that, because I agree with you, Counselor.
It uses the word, well, this is cool. I'll write that one down. It's any certified inspector of Franklin County government without restriction. So
exactly.
I think you all can put that one to bed and roll on to the next one, but I think you're okay.
Thank you. That helps me, because any was the part, any that was certified as an agent of Franklin County government. Thank you. So my next question has to do with the next page, and it's page 3. These aren't marked at the bottom with page numbers. It's under the asterisk where it says all double pole breakers constitute 2 circuits. It's the next sentence right under that. And the sentence reads, requested electrical inspections by individuals or companies will be charged according to time involved in structure size. Can somebody just clarify what that means? Because the words time involved and structure size seem nebulous. I just want to make sure I understand that as well. Thank you.
Judge Weld, if I may go back to the comments pertaining to Section 3.
Sure.
Unless language is either underlined or stricken through, there is no change to the previous ordinance.
Right.
My interpretation to that language is that no certified electrical inspector can just waltz into Franklin County at the whim of a property owner or a contractor and perform an inspection within this jurisdiction. It is a closed jurisdiction, and unless the authority having jurisdiction releases it, no other certified inspector is authorized to perform inspections.
Right.
Okay.
So does Rick, do you agree with that? So we can go on.
Yeah, I mean,
y'all talking about 2 different things here.
I think we are too.
I'm gonna go back and do what I was doing when I was distracted before. It's a certified inspector of the Franklin County government. It's correct. You can't just pull people off the street, but if they are working as an agent or an employee of the Franklin County government, You can't read it just with one word or two words. It's the certified electrical inspector of the Franklin County government.
Got it.
So, yeah.
Right.
Robert's correct. It's not, you can't hire your own. It has to be a government inspector.
So, go ahead, Robert.
All right, and then on page 3, once again, that language remained the same. The only intent of this amendment was to revise the fees.
Yeah.
And so that language, that paragraph under the asterisk, or that sentence under the asterisk, has not changed, and I'm not sure what the intent was behind that language from 2001.
So if the staff is unsure what that is, I mean, the thing is we are not approving this in part. We're approving this in whole. So a lot of these questions, I just want to make sure, because I wasn't on the court in 2001. I don't understand what that means. So I don't know how it's applied today. Somebody has to apply this logic today. So I'm just trying to understand that part of it. Thank you.
Rick, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Eric, and then go ahead, Eric.
I was just listening to the conversation, and on the employee versus non-employee question, I was just going to toss that back to Rick. Rick, in that section 1 purpose on page 2, it references when it's referencing the city hereby temporarily contracts with the county for county provided electric inspection services within the city limits, and then specifically says the county employee will be performing the subject electrical inspections within the city. However, said employees will not be considered a city employee for any reason. I just want to bring your attention to that and get your thoughts on whether you view that as restrictive to an employee versus a contract laborer or some other setup. Because I would do that.
Let's cross that bridge on the next round.
Judge Wells?
Yes, sir.
If it's the pleasure of the court, I would have no objection to the sentence brought up by Squire Sebastian if that were stricken from the ordinance. I would have no objection to that as an amendment.
Is that your desire, Squire Sebastian?
Mr. Planning Director, can you clarify which one? Is it on page 1 or are we talking about page 3 now? I just want to make sure I understand.
Page 3,
okay.
Under the asterisk, that sentence below that where it says request electrical inspections, because I believe that must have been based on a prior fee schedule. And so I truly don't understand what that means.
Exactly. And I think this would offer someone some wiggle room based on what we're trying to do with the rates, because they could point this out potentially. So that it would make sense. That way it's very clear what we're doing. I'd hate for someone to bring this clause up to us and that change the tenor of what we're trying to do right now. We're trying to be uniform, and this offers the opportunity not to be uniform. Thank you.
I agree with you. So I would request that sentence be stricken as an amendment to the ordinance this evening, if approved by the court.
Okay. Tamara will have that on the voting session. So,
well, this is just first reading. So we'll amend it.
yeah. This is just first. Yeah. That's thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to item 8. Authorization to approve amendment to the interlocal agreement with the city of Frankfort for providing electrical inspection services within the jurisdiction of the city. Robert, Eric, Rick.
Yeah, Judge, take up Eric's issue regarding that phrase employee.
Eric.
I have no issue with the phrase at all. I just was referencing that we were bouncing back and forth between the conversation of the fee schedule and the interlocal agreement. So not to add to that confusion, but the discussion had come up about whether this document both visioned and or limited the electrical inspector to an actual county employee versus a contractor. And I thought that sentence had bearing on that discussion. That's the only reason I brought it up. I've got no intention of getting into a debate with anybody. I just thought I'd bring it up to Rick and see what his opinion was for the Squire's benefit.
I don't have any issues with it since it's a provision of employee/personnel, but that's probably a good chance to strike out the word employee and just use the phrase personnel. if that's going to be an issue. At the time these were all generated and negotiated, it was not even considered fallback personnel, contractors, et cetera, because of the at the time there was an active employee, full-time employee of the county. So maybe just to keep it clear, just everybody get on the same page and avoid the proverbial smoke, change that word to personnel as opposed to employee. Because that's really all the county's agreeing to do, is they're going to provide a certified body under their jurisdiction and supervision.
Which section are we in? I'm sorry.
Let me read. I think it's section 3.
Section 3.
No, I was referencing section 1, purpose, page 2, bottom.
The county employees will be performing electrical inspection. So just make it personnel. You want to keep the phrase that it's not to be considered a city employee for any purpose or reason. That's correct. But it's repeated a couple times on there, employee relative to the county. Change that to personnel and you're golden. That gives you the flexibility the court seems to desire in that regard.
Change that one then, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
if that's what they want. Yeah.
So we'll change that because we will be voting on that one.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So as you can see that there, Robert, if you would go over the changes in the contract. I know Squire Blackburn has been adamant about the contract being redone. And so you can see that, Eric, you and Robert, if you want to talk about it, and just go over it briefly.
Yes, thank you very much. So in this document, once again, we have provided the strike through and underline. Strike through is language being eliminated. Underline represents language being added to the document. So first of all, we did include on page 1 that this would be an amendment dated October of 2020, amendment number 1. That's on page number 1. We just discussed on page number 2 under item 1 purpose, changing it from county employee to county personnel. And since this is a track changes document, the large spacing that you see will ultimately be removed once the changes are accepted, and then the document will be cleaned up and sent back out and put in the clerk's file. On page 3, the notable change there is under item 3A, the change to the percentage retained for election inspection fees goes from 5% to 25%. New language added at the last sentence of item 3A is that the county will be reimbursed $10,000 for the use of the county vehicle. Also on page 3, item 3C, the city has requested quarterly invoicing as opposed to biannual. On page 4, item G, Department of Local Government has recommended some language from prior agreements that this, after it's executed by the fiscal court, that be filed with the county clerk, Franklin County, as well as with the Secretary of State. So we just want to put that in there for housekeeping. And then that actually are all the changes proposed. I would like to thank Eric Cockley and both Keith Parker and Tommy Russell for working with me so well in getting this revised, and they've been great to work with. I'm pleased with the arrangement here, and I'll yield the rest of the time to Mr. Cockley.
Thanks, Robert. Yeah, Robert went over basically the changes from the previous arrangement in terms of the fee sharing and all of that. And from my discussions with Tommy, and as I mentioned, sharing this with the Board of Commissioners unofficially, I'm under the impression that no one's against the arrangement as proposed. I would reference back, not not to belabor the point, changing the language from employee to personnel. I just want to be clear that in my discussions with the city manager, we've always been under the impression that the agreement would be for a county employee. So if that's a change that the court chooses to make, obviously I have to discuss that with Tommy and the Board of Commissioners, and see if that changes anything either for the agreement or in the event that change to a contract employee ever occurs. I've shared this with Robert and the judge and Keith and Tommy, because I also had the same question from Keith when we began this discussion of, hey, Eric, rather than employee, whether as part of our agreement with the county or whether for some reason that agreement failed to continue, what do you think about doing that? So I've dug through some of the old files in my office from my predecessor. And I can tell you that from what I'm reading and what I'm hearing from the folks in my office about the period of time, as you all may know, before this agreement existed, the city went through a transition period between having an employee electrical inspector and this agreement where they did contract out with an electrical inspector for a period of time. And from what I can ascertain from the documentation and emails and discussion with my predecessor left in the file, that experience was far from positive. In fact, I would argue, from what I can tell, that experience is the exact reason this agreement exists to begin with. I found a whole slew of emails between the previous city manager and the previous person in my position, complaining multiple times about how to get that contractor motivated to respond sooner. One email discussed having folks wait up to a week behind on inspections. Another one, my predecessor documented to the city manager that they now had folks 2 weeks behind in getting inspections, and they were not getting any paperwork back. And it was, he referenced quite clearly that it was becoming a customer service problem. So I just want to let you all know as we have this discussion, because I think it's important for us to have an honest discussion about what we think about what we're doing as we work together on this. I think that's important for us to be partners. But my opinion, as I go back and I talk to Tommy and the Board of Commissioners, is going to be, if and when the court ever chooses to make that decision, we may enter into this agreement. I certainly hope we do. That's what I hope the court does this evening. And then I will certainly recommend to my Board of Commissioners that we do the same, and hopefully hire a replacement for Mike and continue doing what we're doing, and come back when need be and adjust it so we make sure it's fair for everybody. But I would not recommend for us to participate with a contract electrical inspector for my jurisdiction. The idea that I would have to explain to the Board of Commissioners or the city manager that folks were having to wait a week or two for an electrical inspection, frankly, it makes my blood pressure skyrocket to think about it. And that level of service for our community is frankly not acceptable, my opinion. So I'll respectfully leave that with you all. I think the agreement's fair for both parties. And I would also just add that Robert and I and the judge and Tommy have also talked a lot about, assuming this agreement is something that the court sees as fair, that we continue and do our best to try to document the time that you all's electrical inspection employees are taking in the various jurisdictions, so that if we come back to you in a year, 2 years, whatever it may be, and you say, well, who's using these employees the most, as I think you all know from talking with Robert on the number of inspections and how many are in the county, how many are in the city. And I'm sure Robert's kind of explained how that piece of information isn't always as useful as it sounds, because you don't know how long each inspection took, things of that nature. I think really having a grasp of how much time these individuals are spending will give us a good way in the future to look back and decide whether what we're doing is fair for everybody or not. And I'll just repeat one more time that on my side of the river, as we say, we absolutely don't want to be taking advantage of the situation. We want to be fair. We want to be partners because we want to keep doing this. I think it's a good thing for the community and our development community. And anytime we can partner with the fiscal court, we're gonna try to do that so that it benefits everybody. So that's my spiel. I'm happy with Robert. Take any questions you all may.
If you don't mind, Eric, first of all, I agree with you. I think we've seen it. Those of us been around a while have seen contract employees and how that doesn't help us be business friendly, how that doesn't help us help developers, how that doesn't help us. If we help developers, businesses, we grow. It stymies us. So Eric, not Eric, but Rick, is there a clause, since we've changed in this, is there a clause that we can put in there that would allow them an immediate out if we were to go the route of doing a contract employee, that they could get out of it? Otherwise, we've written in there that it would be a year. The reason we did the year way back in the beginning, a few years ago, all of us together, including you, Rick, we decided to do a year because we're going to hire an employee.
I apologize, Judge. I didn't have the privilege of voting. I drafted at the court's discretion and direction.
I know, but that was the discussion.
I know. I just wanted to make sure that, when you're going to throw me under the bus, I want to make sure that at least I see the wheels coming.
I'm not throwing under the bus. I'm just repeating history.
The thing that the court needs to remember is there's no drafting. This is the first volley. If you approve it, it goes back to the city to see if they approve it. If they approve it as you sent it, then you've got yourself an agreement. If the court desires to expand that to give flexibility for a contractor as a contractor inspector, either as a primary or a fallback, and that's the will of the court, and the city doesn't want to do that, then they'll reject it. If the court wants to keep it just strictly employees, that's one of the matters that's before the court this afternoon. Pardon me, is whether or not the court's going to hire an employee. So you got a lot of balls in the air you're juggling, but this isn't the final version. This has not been approved by the city proper. So this is your offer for them to accept.
Okay.
So if you want to have that flexibility and they don't like it, they'll reject it and strike it and they'll send it back to you and you'll just have to do the redo. If they do like it and they're willing to eat it for a while and see how it turns out, you certainly can do that. But this is just this is your offer, so to speak.
Brian Mahler.
Thank you, Judge Wells. Thank you, Eric. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm sure a lot of that was because of my email. I've been asking since last July, just kind of for an RFP, just to see if there's interest for sub-type, inspectors, just because, I know Fayette County does it and many counties around us. I'm not set on that. I look at options for our citizens, From what I understood, when you all did it years ago, it didn't work well because it was kind of an emergency thing. You got an inspector from another county who kind of kept us on the back burner, us being, Frankfort and Franklin County. So I don't know if there's an RFP done, if there's a contracts done, or if somebody was just trying to fill in. So I was just, for the last year and a half, I've just been asking for this just to see the possibilities. I think we owe it to everybody. And, because we've always done it the same way doesn't mean it's the right way, or that it's not a better way now. So, I'm not opposed to this. I appreciate you and Robert working on it. I just was really hoping that, we could just see if there was other options, and if there was licensed people or probably electricians that are getting ready to retire that might be interested. Maybe it's 5 different people, that's how it's been explained to me in different communities, how it works, and they just take turns and give them to people and they pay them a certain amount. So that's kind of where I'm at on it. And if the court wants to talk about it, that's fine. If they don't, that's fine. But let me ask you, you and Robert, this. You were talking about tracking time-wise and jobs and city, county, and are all of the city and county employees, especially during this pandemic, are they all using computerized things, iPads, laptops, and do we have a program set up so the information is being inputted? I don't know if either of y'all want to answer that, but I just a couple questions.
Currently, Squire, the exodus from the downtown office came quite quickly, and my office did not have time to prepare the inspectors for mobile work to this extent. I have been authorized and have ordered mobile tablet devices and have provided the inspectors with smartphones with hotspots so that they can work mobile in the field without the need for having to use or require their own personal computers to perform county work. So, we should be receiving our first shipment of the tablets, I believe, tomorrow or maybe early next week. But otherwise, the answer generally would be no, not until now.
Okay, we'll let's say we decide on this and we share a person. Eric, are you all using certain computer programs that would work with both sides of the river per se? You know what I mean? So we can keep track of things. Or?
Yeah, so both Robert's office and my office use iWorks permitting software. We use it for literally all of our permitting and code enforcement and inspection activities. And Robert's office also uses it for permitting and inspection activities. So we've already talked before, prior to pandemic, which, as Robert mentioned, messed everything up. Most of my folks already do that. They take tablets with them. And then, particularly if it's like our code enforcement guys, they can take pictures of whatever they're dealing with, upload it while they're out in the field, and then all they got to do when they get back to the office is hit print on their paperwork and that kind of thing. And that software is good as Robert knows, and they use it for permitting or for tracking, the number of permits, which jurisdiction they're in, things of that nature. So what we need to find in addition to is, as Robert referenced, getting that technology now that his folks were so urgently dumped into mobile working because of the pandemic, is just having them away. And it can be as simple as the two inspectors have an Excel spreadsheet and they mark, Monday, 4 hours in the city, 4 hours in the county, or 8 to 10 inspection in the city, 10 to 11 inspection in the county. And then that at some point can be hopefully, tallied from time to time to see where we're sitting. When I think about it, that's what I imagine is the simplest way to do that without overburdening those guys to have to do something complicated, but also give you all and the Board of Commissioners a good, clear picture of that workload difference. Because I think, as I mentioned before, the number of inspections or the number of permits may not always give you a good picture. For example, maybe you'd see that you have more permits in the city than in the county. But it might be that depending on the permit type or the fact that the permits in the city might be a 5-minute drive from each other, and the same number of permits in the county might be a 25-minute drive from each other. You can have that information and not know if you really know what you're looking at. And we want you to know what you're looking at. So that's what we've been talking about trying to do, so that when we discuss this again in the future, as I'm sure we will, we have good data.
Squire Muller, if I could add to what Mr. Cockley said, since we both use the same program, it is an internet-based software, so the inspectors can add data in the field. Mr. Cockley and I have discussed providing shared access, limited access to each other's system, so that the inspectors can input the data, and so that either jurisdiction could see the work being performed live as it occurs. And so that way the city doesn't have to wait 4 months to see a report. They can see it every day if they choose to. So that is something that Mr. Cockley and I have discussed and will be working on. And once again, I sure miss Eric at my office, but darn, I sure am glad he's at the city.
So let me ask you one other question. This is just kind of an elementary one. And so Robert, I think you said at one point when we were discussing a lot of this, that the last inspector guessed he was spending his time 80% city, 20 county. I think that's the numbers you gave us. So just out of a question, why wouldn't the city hire this person and we work with them? That's a simple question, I think.
I believe that number was skewed. I provided a bar graph to the court. I think it was at the prior meeting. that showed the number of inspections, I believe, compared between the city and the county. It should be known, and it's obvious, that growth occurs in the county. The majority of industry is in the county. Large industrial projects require more time for inspections. It's a more intense type of activity. So therefore, reconnects for rental inspections and things of that nature are very time consuming just by nature of the volume of those activities that come in. But once again, I believe that over time you will see that the majority of the activity will continue to occur within the county. The city, for whatever reason, decided and approached the county to enter into this agreement, and it was a mutual agreement in that both jurisdictions saw a need for part-time help. But however, it's difficult to locate a part-time electrical inspector for either jurisdiction. And so we thought it would be wise to pool our resources and allow an employee to cross over jurisdictions by virtue of this interlocal cooperation agreement. And we also have long held beliefs that we can do it quicker by internal personnel than outside personnel, and that's the experience that the city had.
And Court, if I could remind you, Judge, you asked me about an earlier termination clause. The rationale behind that, and by keeping this 5 years, et cetera, is because the county correctly identified that it was going to bear the personnel cost, and I'll use personnel since the discussions expanded somewhat beyond just an employee, but the county was going to have to bear those costs, and the county would have to be recruiting, training, et cetera. The idea was that for predictability for 5 years, the program would continue, and the county wants some assurance that they could continue that while they went out and, again, recruited, maintained, et cetera, county personnel to provide that. Yes. Now, some of those focuses are changing, so that might also necessitate a change, but you still are kind of rolling down the same track because you're going to have before you this same afternoon a discussion to hire an employee personnel. Yes. And if that's the case, then all the other issues that you've just discussed are moot.
Yeah.
Yes.
Eric, I'm sorry. Eric had his hand up before you, Marty. I'm sorry.
Thanks, Judge. I just wanted to touch on Squire Mueller's question because, I mean, I think that's fair. And what I wanted to add too, that I think we experienced, and I think this is where electrical permitting and inspections is a little different from some of the other stuff we do. Most of what we do has a fair mix of homeowners starting projects, contractors coming in to starting projects, and everything in between. The guys, the vast majority of the folks coming in to get permits with Mel every day are those licensed contractors. We do have homeowners that come in and do that, but a whole lot of that traffic is the contractors pulling the permits themselves for the projects they're doing. And so I think those folks, our local contractor community, appreciates that whatever project they got going on that day, that week, they want to get into an office, get that silly paperwork out of the way, chit chat with Mel about what they got to do, and get the heck out of there and get to the project. And I think it's beneficial to them to know that they can go to one spot and they just say, here's the address. And they go, okay, yeah, here's the city form, here's the county form, what you got going on, when do we need to schedule it? So I do think there is a benefit to them being in one place for that purpose. I just thought I'd offer that.
I appreciate that.
Squire Booth.
Oh, well, I was wondering, I was wondering about forms. I was hoping that they would use the same forms and that the forms would have all the expected categories of inspection on that form. And both of them were using that. Is that your intention?
Yes, Squire. The reason that we have separate forms currently is because the city and county have different fees and different inspection types. So once again, this is an attempt to make it as uniform. We want to make it exactly the same. Would you agree, Mr. Cockley?
Absolutely, yes, sir. Squire Booth, to your point, that'll be our next thing to do once we get, assuming the court chooses to pass the permit fee structure, and then assuming that the Board of Commissioners also views that favorably, will be to change our forms so that they're identical, other than a city logo on one and a county logo on the other. So that's I think a valid point, and that's part of our goal with the whole thing.
All right.
Okay. Any other questions on this? Squire Sebastian. I'm sorry. I see you. I'll get you next, Squire Blackburn.
Thanks, Judge. And I appreciate Counselor Sparks weighing in, because I was a bit confounded by the term of the agreement, which is, that 5-year term to be renewed for 2 additional 5-year terms with written notice to terminate within a year in advance. And then each renewal period, a way that the contract's written now, the way I read it, has to be exactly the same terms as the previous 5-year term before that, terms and conditions, which means that the county literally could be locked into 15 years for the life of this with nothing changed whatsoever. And, if you think back 15 years ago, of things that we used, who's using a camera anymore? No one. The world is changing. Who rents movies at Blockbuster anymore? There's not even Blockbuster. People used to download music on Napster. If you said that out in the public now, just old people like me would know what Napster is. So I'm just a little confounded about the terms, because this really locks the party in for a lengthy period, and the world changes so rapidly now. And the conditions in the world change rapidly. So I just would be, and Counselor Sparks brought this up, this may be something that you want to look at, because the world just changed so quickly. So I really am more on that bandwagon of making a change in the term. And I have something else, but I'll throw that comment out there so that others can comment on it or not.
Squire's correct, and I'll tell this out. You can make it whatever you want to. At the time that we did that, as the judge correctly pointed out, when the court voted on it, the court wanted some assurances that they were going to be hiring this inspector, and they wanted it to be able to be dealt with, and they wanted it to be supported, etc. And it was a compromised term, as long as possible, because the county was going to be on the hook for the personnel. Pardon me. If you want to change that, then you're going back and addressing the same risk problems you had before, that if you hire this personnel to do this job one way or the other, and then this contract is terminated, then the county bears the burden of that personnel cost. So you're balancing those two factors, and it was completely deliberate when the court voted on those terms for that amount and for that reason. Shorten it up if you want to, change it to whatever you want to, but then you'd be absorbing the risk of termination, and you'd have that employee.
Squire Blackburn?
Yeah. I want to thank Robert and Eric for getting together on this, and with the help from the city manager. It is something I talked about a lot over the last year, and I'm glad they've done it. I'm glad you got some uniformity with the fees and permit schedule. I think that's awesome. And I'm happy with it. I'm happy with this agreement, because as Eric said, this is something that is going to fluctuate with time spent and permit numbers and things like that. And if we watch it and we find a disparity, I'm sure that we can come together like we did this time and straighten it out. So I want to thank you guys, and I appreciate you putting the work in.
Judge?
Yes.
If we were going to change the language in this from employee to personnel, we may also need to look at changing section 3, the compensation performance, because it does address the cost of a salary and benefits. So if we go down the contractor route, I don't think we would be providing benefits. So language there needs to be looked at as well, if that's the route that the court would like to take.
Well, I think the city's saying if we go that route, they're out. So
are we going to leave it as personnel or employee?
Well, I need to ask Rick that, but hold on. I've got 3 magistrates. I got 3 people raising their hand. Squire Tracy, you're next.
Thanks, Judge. Quick question, I guess, could go to Robert and or Eric, and thank you guys for all your hard work. In regards to coming in the office every morning and seeing someone or something like that, the electrical inspectors that have reached out to me, they all want to know when things are going to be updated to where they can do things over an iPad or their iPhone, and things of that nature to keep them from having to drive downtown and so forth. Is that being looked at? And if so, do you have any idea when that may go live? Kind of like the landfill vouchers now, how convenient that is.
Thank you for bringing that up. The county has slowly transitioned into an online form system. You know, I think it's wonderful if we could get to that where they could submit online, because up until this pandemic, you know, my office did not even take credit card payments. So in some respects, you know, this COVID crisis has really moved the county forward in many ways. You know, I am all for the ability for contractors to request and or homeowners to request inspections and submit applications online, make payments online. I think it's a wonderful thing, and I would love to do it. I'm all for it.
Keep going, Squire Tracy.
And thank you, Robert. I agree with you. And then one other thing, I know that it's been touched on tonight, you know, being business friendly and so forth and growth. But again, in speaking to local electricians, it sounds like there's 6 or 7 surrounding counties that use subs, and we hear that it can't, you know, it's not good, we can't do it or shouldn't do it. But when you hear growth, I mean, you're looking at Shelby County doing it, you're looking at Woodford County that does it, Anderson does it.
I'm sorry,
and so forth.
Doing subs. What do you mean by subs, Squire?
Like subcontractors doing the inspections.
Subcontractor. Oh,
yeah. So I mean, like I said, there's a handful, 7 or so around, right directly around us that touch us. Some even border us that do the same thing. So just food for thought.
Sure. If I could just briefly touch on that. And I have had some recent conversations with a contract inspector as well. You know, Franklin County has always retained its own electrical inspection personnel. So therefore, you know, we would be late to the game in my opinion, of requiring a foothold in an inspector's schedule. So my concern with going down that path is that we wouldn't be able to provide the service in a timely manner. You know, our administrative code says that we provide the electrical inspection services on the first come first served basis. It makes for a very difficult day in my office when if I have to tell a developer or a contractor that it's going to be, you know, several days or a week or even up to 2 weeks for an inspection because, you know, the person is working 3 other counties. That's the day I don't want to have. I like to be able to have employees that I can call or I can see in the office every day and say, I need you to adjust your schedule. It's all about providing direction and management of my staff. But there are occasions in which acquiring outside service is necessary, whether it be a state inspector or a contract inspector. So it's not off the table. It's just not an everyday practice, but there are occasions, whether it be conflict of interest or otherwise, in which we need to bring in another inspector. For instance, the fire station number 10, the sheriff and coroner's office. We had a state inspector come in and do those because that'd be a conflict of interest. So, you know, we do allow that, but there is paperwork that we have to process to have that happen. So just want to share that with you, that we do practice that.
Okay, Squire Tracy.
Just one more, Judge, and this is for Robert. And again, it may be for a different day, but Robert, just to circle back on a question that I asked you at the last meeting. When an electrical inspection takes place, as long as there's social distancing being practiced, county inspectors are not asking contractors to leave or not be present in the home or the construction at the construction project that they are inspecting? I just want to make sure.
Well, it's interesting you asked the same question in two meetings. And so I asked directly to my chief electrical inspector, who's the only one performing the inspections at this time. And at my direction, I said, if there's individuals within the structure, ask them to go outside. But I asked him directly, are you asking individuals to leave the job site? And he said, no. He said, many guys will go sit in their truck, drink some water, smoke a cigarette, whatever they do. He said, but I do not ask them to leave the site. I just ask them to give me room to perform my inspection.
Okay. Well, according to my notes, the meeting, the last thing you said was, if the structure is big enough that they can separate, they should not have to leave the structure. So I'm just wanting to make sure, because again, and I'll get with you. I've been contacted by several that have said that they're sending employees to different jobs because they're being told they can't be in, but the job or the construction project is big enough that they can socially distance. So just want to make sure.
Well, there could be a misunderstanding in that point. If I have an electrical inspector in Buffalo Trace Warehouse HH, which is 7 stories of 150,000 square feet, I doubt that my inspector is going to ask them, to leave the job site. So, but I'm happy to follow back up with my inspector to make sure that he's clear that they don't have to leave the job site. Just give him room to make his work. Get his work done. I'll follow up with him.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Squire Sebastian.
Thank you, Judge. On page 3, section 3, compensation and performance. This is a question. Will 25% of the revenue from the inspections within the city adequately address costs? And I think our counselor has brought this up, like computers, iPads, programs that we need to run on those, office space, desks, everything that goes in that, the cost of an iPhone, office supplies, fuel for the vehicle maintenance. Will 25% adequately cover all those costs for personnel and employee?
We added 10,000 for the vehicle in addition to.
Sure, I saw that. But again, I'm getting back to the 25%. Will that cover the employee costs? Because if we have, let's say there's an employee issue, then we have to put them on probation or they're out for a while. I mean, those, and I think our HR director has talked about that in the past, how that adds to the cost of everything. I know our treasurer has talked about that when somebody's out. So I'm just trying to make sure I understood that going up from, I think the previous court had agreed to 5%. What's in this document is 25. And I'm trying to make sure that I think both of the planning directors said that they wanted to be equitable as possible. But we've also noted that once this contract is written, it's in place for 5 years and there's not a lot of changes that can happen. So I just want to make sure we cover that ground. And I have 2 additional questions, but you can ask someone else to go if you wish. But I'd like to hear about the 25% first. But I still have 2 questions. Thank you.
I'll answer your first one. And I don't know what your second or third questions are. But your first one is, I asked Susan, what would be a reasonable amount to cover all of those expenses that you talked about? And I said, would 25% do it? And she said, yes, she thought that would do it. So that's the answer. That's sure. The first one.
Okay. Thank you, Judge. Madam Treasurer, did you have some kind of metric that you used to kind of come up with that? Just so I can understand.
First of all, the $10,000 covering the vehicle and associated costs with the vehicle is key. Okay, that was a big omission in the first round of this agreement. So covering a vehicle and that would also should cover the fuel. I believe is the way that it's written. As far as the 25%. Again, that's much improved from the 5% that we were getting. So
plus the fees have been raised.
We would be covering our insurance cost, such as our property liability or our errors and omissions costs associated with that individual, then that would certainly supplement that. When you talk about salary and benefits, when you say benefits, you wrap a lot into that, because workers' comp can be wrapped into that. And of course, insurance is wrapped into health insurance, those types of benefits are already wrapped into that cost. That's where our primary cost is. So as far as, and even vacation and leave is wrapped into salary and benefits. So all the heavy costs are covered that I can see. So I think it with the agreement with the city, and that they've come to terms with the 25% being reasonable, that there should be enough room there to cover incidentals, with whatever they are.
Oh, thank you, Madam Treasurer, because, you know, you led with the statement, well, this is better than the 5%. I just want to make sure that we're all mindful. I mean, everybody's trying to do, I think we've all come to the table to do the right thing for the people that we're serving. But as everyone seems to have pointed out tonight, when this contract initially came before a previous fiscal court, we're seeing that there were a lot of problems with it. So we're trying to obviously come back to the table and tighten that up tonight, if there's a way to tighten it up. So I want to draw your attention to page 4, section 3D, as in David Delta, where it says there shall be no undue delay in conducting electrical inspections within the city. How do we quantify what that means? What's the intent of the language? I just want to make sure I understand that.
Squires, I want to just throw this out at you all so you all can understand this phrase very carefully. There's a maxim of the law that we deal with, and it goes like this: perfection is the mortal enemy of the good. And as this thing was designed, nobody knew what they were getting into. What you're facing is an evolution of circumstances as they develop. You're going to get to a cost-benefit quandary here, because perfection is the mortal enemy of the good. There's no way to quantify it until it happens. And if it's unreasonable, then you're going to yell at people, and everybody's going to get yelled at. Unreasonable delay means unreasonable delay to be dealt with. You can't quantify those type of things. There's no metric yard arm or whatever to say this is how you're going to fix it. Everybody knows what unreasonable is, but it's one of those things, you know it when it happens, but you can't quantify it ahead of time.
Eric Cockley, would you like to speak?
So I was just trying to finish my statement.
Cockley, would you like to speak?
Oh, Lord.
I thought I might have something that might be helpful for Squire Sebastian on that. While there would seem to be a focus that's focusing on the timing for inspections in the city, I think it's instructive to also include the sentence afterwards. Because what I imagine, and once again, much like yourself, I wasn't involved in the negotiation of the first one, but what I think, and coming from the city side, what I think is important about that section is the following sentence that references that inspections should come on a first come, first served basis. And I can only imagine that the folks sitting in my seat several years ago wanted that in there just so they could be protected from perhaps the county. And of course, you all and Robert and Mel would never actually do this, but prioritize your projects first and then come to us after that. It's first come, first serve. If 5 county projects come in that day and need inspections, they get on the books. And then the next 5 that come in get on the books after that, whatever jurisdiction they're in. If 5 city inspections get on, they happen. And so I think it was just a way to ensure that the inspections would be performed as quickly as possible as they came in by the personnel available, and to some degree to protect both sides. But I think that must be what that was referencing.
I think you're right, Eric.
I appreciate that, Planning Director Cockley. Thank you very much. I also, let's stay in that section, because the very last thing references the administrative code from 2016, which has been updated since then. So I think we should, that was an old court, that was an old code. The code's changed since then. I certainly think we need to update that to present, that the code that has been reviewed and approved by this body. And I guess before we get off this complete conversation, I still am in the quandary about the 5-year of the term. I know that's been talked about many times, so I'd like to really hear what the court would like to do, because I think 5 years with 2 renewable 5-year terms and no changes during that period once you sign the document the first time is problematic for everyone. Thank you.
Well, you know, Rick, let me ask you, we're 3 years in and we're already changing it. So it doesn't mean you can't change it, does it?
Correct. No, sir, not at all. What the idea was to have some document that you could rely on as it stood going forward. Any agreement can be changed at any time if everybody's in agreement to change the agreement at any time. If you want to go in here, and let's see, that we're at 3 years into 5, you could just let it ride as is. Next year, give a notice of termination and you're done. But if everybody's in agreement to any modification, as you can see, that's kind of what you're doing right now.
But Counselor Sparks, it says in section 2A, each period of renewal shall be on the same terms and conditions as set forth. So
that's correct.
It helped me with that.
That's correct if it's renewed, but if you amend it, then it's called an amendment. It's different. You can change things if everybody agrees to the changes.
Okay, so I still have issues with the 5-year term, but that's
and there's no problem having an issue with them. If the parties agree to modify the 5-year terms to 3 or start it again right now, if that be the desire. Remember, this is your offer for this amendment. And if the city agrees to that, then you make the changes. If you want to make that part of this offer of an amendment, then if that be the will of the body, and there's some changes that Madam Clerk brought up about some of the language as to salary, et cetera, if those need to be qualified, that's the whole point of doing an amendment. That's just called the daily grind, y'all. If that's what you want to do, then throw it out there, make those amendments or make those modifications. And if they agree to it, then everything starts with the amendment. The idea was if you didn't touch it, it would roll over straight. But you can amend things anytime you want to if everybody's in agreement. You're balancing you've got flexibility built in there if everybody can agree. That's what you're trying to figure out now is what's working and what's not, and make changes accordingly.
All right.
So if you want to change that to 3 or 5 or whatever, then throw it out there and see if it sticks.
Well, so if that's back to me, I'd like to put it in place for 1 and revisit it next year and see how this is going, because we've had, as others have noted, we've been attempting to lock into a contract. Things are changing rapidly. No one just a few months ago would presume we are where we are. So I'm going to throw that out and we'll see where it goes. Thank you.
Eric, you want to comment on that? Because you're going to take that back to the city, and I'm sure they're not going to say, well, we're only going to do this for 1 year.
Judge, I would withhold comment on that without having an opportunity to discuss that with the BOC, and I'll yield. I believe Squire Moore had a comment.
Squire Moore?
I think the county is the one that would be at a loss there. If we're going to hire somebody and give them benefits on a 1-year contract, that would be absurd.
Yeah.
That was why it was done this way.
But I've got some more things to say about this hiring a contractor. I've talked to people in other counties, and they're not happy with it. These contractors show favoritism. A lot of them were former electricians, and if somebody did business with them, they get better treatment. Somebody that stopped business with them when they were inspector or when they were a contractor, and now they're an inspector, they get the runaround. And home inspections. When new homes are built and the home inspectors come into some of these counties, they find all kinds of problems. And I don't think we're having that here in Franklin County, because our inspectors are pretty thorough. Home inspectors in these other counties, say they can't go into a home if they don't find electrical mishaps. That's pretty much all for now. I'm not going to waste a lot of your time, but it's already been done plenty. So, but I wouldn't be in favor in any way or form of contract inspectors, because we have no control over them. We have some, but very little, and it would slow inspections in this county tremendously. I'm afraid. I'd be against it.
Well, I'll commit the sin that Lambert just pointed out that's being committed wholeheartedly here. The issue before the court is whether or not you are going to amend these fees, et cetera. The issue is whether or not you're going to hire a contractor to fill in the gaps is best reserved for another discussion at another day. If you want the flexibility to even do that, however, there are some amendments, language amendments, like instead of it says salary and benefits, just say cost, comma, salary and or benefits, things like that get you to the same place. And if the two respective bodies agree to it, then the court has the flexibility to go down that route in the future if you choose to do it. That's not what you're discussing though today. You're discussing the ability to have the flexibility and react as to future circumstances when and if they occur. You're getting bogged down in a whole lot of weeds on a lot of speculation on things, when what I'm hearing everybody doing is saying they want the flexibility to react and respond, but then you're speculating as to what those reactions and responses are going to be in the future. And that is not conducive to moving this discussion forward, in my opinion.
Rick, Squire Sebastian brought up, let's do 1 year. If the city and the county agree that this is not working, that you could get out of it at any time as long as you've got a year's notice. Isn't that correct?
It's a year's notice prior to the end of the 5. So right now it's written 4 years in. You've got to give them notice, not intend to renew.
Yeah, but and that is in there. As a matter of fact, we're going to be talking later on about employees. People are not, even contractors aren't going to say, well, why would I do this? Why would I leave Woodford County? Or why would I come over here if you're only going to do this for a year? And we sure in the heck aren't going to hire somebody that's going to be good, which we'll be talking about here in a bit, to come in and take this job if they're only going to be here for 1 year. That would be insane. Nobody would do that.
That was the rationale by keeping it that long, because the county was going to assume the risk of that employee, that position, and you wanted some longevity built into it. That was the rationale for why that length was in there.
Squire Moore?
Yeah, I wanted to remind the court, but I'm thinking back, I think the judge and Susan are probably the only ones here. We had a sweetheart deal for trash pickup one time, and one of the magistrates thought that the 15-year term was too long, so we put it out to rebid for a 5-year term, and the price doubled. Diesel fuel went up during that time, and here we are today paying $15 where we were paying $6 at the time. We had a 15-year deal. So I'm very leery of changing contracts in that manner.
Squire Sebastian.
Thank you, Judge. And, I'm sure we're all here as long as it takes to do the people's business. Nobody comes in with the stopwatch. And I just want to say that the 1 year, 5 years, I really do think 5 years is a long period of time. So I've heard what others have had to say that, Judge, you think 1 year's laughable. Squire Moore has also talked about the problems with 1 year. I think 5 is too long. That's, again, everyone has an individual opinion of how this contract would benefit the residents of our community. So I would be willing to go 2, but I would be unwilling to go more than that to lock in this agreement. And again, I'm only speaking for me, and I'm not speaking in a derogatory manner against anybody who has a comment, nor have I ever. Thank you.
Squire Blackburn.
Wait, before the discussion goes, follow up on Squire's comment. Be mindful of the fact that the contract right now is 5. That's what you're dealing with. You've got certain cards on the table that you're playing out right now.
Okay, let's go around and see. Squire Blackburn. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. I'm under the impression that we have a contract that we felt was unequitable. I know I did. And then we discussed it and both sides finally agreed that it was unequitable. And then they came together and made some adjustment to it. I think we have that opportunity in front of us every day. So I don't have a problem with it because I believe that we'll work together in the future to make this right, like we're doing right now today. So I'm okay with 5 year.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, once again, this is about our community. This isn't really for us. This is for our developers. This is for our builders. This is for the people that are building our community, and they're going to want some. They want to make sure that the people that come out and they're working with them aren't going to be gone in a year. That they're not going to have it change over every year. So having a year or two is pretty short time. Anyway, so Squire Muller, we've heard what Squire Sebastian wants. What's your thought?
Well, I think at the end of the day, the county will be making a hire, and so it's not like the employee would be let go if this contract is terminated with the city. And I'm also leery about signing contracts that extend longer than the term of this court. So I'd like to go. I'll go 2 years with Squire Sebastian.
Squire Tracy, you're on mute. You're on mute. You're on mute.
Sorry about that, Judge. Completely understand everyone's stance. I was part of the last group that just came in on. And also, it started out at the county was supposed to collect 15% of the fees. And when it got to us, it was 5%. No. 2 years.
That's not true. I was in that.
According to the notes that I've got, that's what it was. So again, thank you. 2 years, 3 years. I think we also need to look at the percentage. I think 40%. Why not look at the percentage as well? 25 is good, but 40 would be better. So 2 years, 3 years. I also think we need to look it up in the percentage.
Squire Booth, we need you. You're the final vote where this is going. Don't know where Squire Booth is.
I don't, but if we do not amend this agreement, then we are continuing under the low percentages that we currently have.
That is correct.
Okay.
And then the city can, Rick, so it looks like we're going down a route that, a rabbit hole here. Let me just say that. So what's this? What are the options here? If this court is not in agreement to change the contract?
You're stuck with the existing contract for the next 3 years or 2 years. And then after the expiration of this year, either party can give notice that they intend to terminate it. Because you're remember what you're doing here is there's a contract on the table and you're making a proposal for certain amendments subject to being approved by the city in the same form that you sent them to. Like any other contract proposal, you got an offer, and then if it's accepted. If you take no action, this is what you got. If there are certain things you want to add on there as part of the amendment, you know, one of the dangerous things is to have too many options. You got a lot of options. Mission Creek creep comes in there. You've got a lot of really good ideas that you want to implement. Now, after seeing how it's worked, sometimes it gets too much, and you get away from the core question. The core question is based on these percentages to change the contribution rates, et cetera. Are you going to send that to the city and make an offer to propose that they modify that? If they don't, or the county doesn't approve such a modification, then you've got the contract already in place. You're stuck with that. That's what you're dealing with. That's what's on the table right now. So whatever you're going to change is just an offer to the city to amend this agreement.
Right.
And you've got, that's what I said, you've got a lot of options on what you can request now, knowing what you know that you didn't know 3 years ago or 2 years ago. But be careful by doing that, because a lot of times deliberative bodies get caught in the trap of taking a narrow issue, and you realize what all the other issues could be, and you end up with no action being taken at all. That's why I said that there's a lot of things you can do to perfect this, but perfection is the enemy of the good.
Squire Blackburn.
So be careful.
I hear you. Thank you, Ben.
I think it would be, I agree with Squire Muller. You know, I don't want to bind a future court to a decision that we've made with a contract. So, and I think the city would be amiable to doing the same and understanding that we're agreeable to this contract as it stands, and we can always come back and revisit it, but we don't want to bind it for more than 2 years because we're not going to be in office, or we could be. We want to make it flexible.
So you're changing from 5 to 2 now?
I would do 5 or I would do 2, because I think we would work through this like we're doing today now. So, but at the same time, I think there's others that may think that that's too long. So I'm okay with 2, because that would just be binding this court. It wouldn't be binding a future court.
Judge Wells, this is Robert. If I may, as Mr. Copley stated, we currently have a city administration that is generally agreeable with what's being proposed. And I see this as an opportunity for not only the county, but the community to improve upon the current situation. Today, Mr. Copley shared with me a document of a financial analysis that they had prepared that, if Mr. Copley does not disagree with, I'd like to share with the court and have Mr. Copley narrate his calculations. Do you mind if we do that, Eric?
That'd be fine, Robert.
All right. Mr. Tippett, would you mind providing me screen share access?
You should have it.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. There, are we? Is it available? Is it in view?
Yes.
Okay. So this is a memorandum dated October 1st, 2020 on the City of Frankfort letterhead. Eric, would you mind going through this first sheet?
Sure. What I put together here, and this was originally for our discussions once we got the proposal from Robert and the judge, just to look at what these cost shares had been in the last 2 previous years that I have invoices available to me, and then what they would look like had this proposal been in effect. I'm looking at the 2, because I think I've got a different version in front of me I'm looking at, actually.
This before now.
Robert, if you will, can you scroll to the back page? Okay, yeah, I think the formatting on his got messed up and it kind of got me lost there, guys.
All right.
The bottom there, conclusions, I think is the first place to start. And what I did is I went back to the invoice from 2018, and I went back to the first 6 months invoice from 2019, which is the most recent I had. and tried to lay out in here what the city's share was and what the county's share was for those years under the current agreement and what they would be under the proposed. So the conclusions here are simply under the proposed agreement, based upon the information I have available, what the county share was for that inspector, what the city share was, and then a percentage of that, because I thought that was important for my analysis of what we were doing. And so you can see, assuming those costs that we have as known costs, that's the breakdown. The city in 2018, if this had been the agreement, would have paid an estimated 42% of the cost of that inspector, and the county would have paid the remainder. And using the first half of 2019 and just doubling it, assuming that wouldn't have changed, I did an estimated, that number for the city grows to 44.5%.
Thank you, Eric. So Judge Wells, if I could just reemphasize to the court, while the agreement percentage has changed to 25%, the other provisions within the agreement increase that percentage of cost share between both jurisdictions. And so once again, I believe that this is best for both jurisdictions as well as the community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Squire Booth, good to see you back. On the floor is our two changes are possible. Well, one keep it the same, or two change it to 2 years. Renewing the looking at the contract. Do you have an opinion on it? Right now, it's written as 5 years, and that's to protect the hiring an employee. But it is recommended that we go 2 years by some.
My opinion is let's make it 2 years.
Okay. All right. So we'll add that. Squire Muller.
Thank you, Judge. Hey, Eric, I just want you to know, and I really appreciate you, Robert, JW, Squire Blackburn, everybody. It's all good. I'm happy with the agreement. I appreciate we got there. I just don't want to tie another court down to something that we did. So, and I think that's kind of the consensus. So, you know, if you want to pass that on to the city commissioners, or I can, that's all it is for me, really, is binding another court to something that we decide on.
We'll do, Squire. We'll take you know, the agreement as you all come up with this evening, and I'll happily present that to the Board of Commissioners, and I certainly hope we can continue. So appreciate it.
Squire Sebastian.
I just wanted to reiterate the point about the updating of the administrative code. In this document, it still states it's from 2016. I don't want to lose that in the conversation. Thank you.
Rick, do you recommend changes on that?
Yeah, yes, Judge. I've been making notes as you all been discussing this about it. Notwithstanding the proposal to modify the percentages, which I'm hearing everybody's in agreement on, you've made 3 other section proposals that need to be corrected, both for flexibility and timing. They're contained in section 2.A, 3A, and 3D.
Okay.
The one that Squire was just talking about just references that. That's an easy modification on the agreement. Just say administrative code, period, done deal. As to the time, if that is the agreement of both parties, that's also easily done. The time, though, would start now as set forth in October of 2020, and it's contained in section 2.2A. And then the other language Madam Clerk referenced, instead of cost and salary, just cost, comma, salary, and benefits cures that. And then if the city accepts it, then you're good to go. There's a lot of really good reasons why all of these things were done at the time, and there's a lot of really good reasons why I changed them. But those are the only ones that I've heard a consensus on. Please, somebody correct me if I'm mistaken.
Amber.
So
You want to review that again?
I'll clean it up with him later. We are going to vote tonight on those changes that he just mentioned, and then we can clean up the document, or do you want to clean it up, bring it back later?
We're going to vote on the document with those changes.
Okay.
Isn't that correct? Isn't that correct, Rick?
That's what I understand is before the body today. Yes, sir.
That's what I understood too.
Judge Wells, if I may.
Yes, sir.
As the director of the department and the supervisor of this of an employee to provide this service, I would prefer the 5-year term, and I would like to go on the record to emphasize that. As an employee, I'm looking for longevity. I am looking for an employee that will be long lasting. I have a current employee with over 25 years in the system who will be leaving soon. I need to begin to groom an employee that can transition into a supervisor's position to continue continuity of extremely important process in the building industry, and that is electrical inspections. If I lose both an employee from retirement as well as an employee because a contract terminated, not only do I not have longevity, but now I have no employees, potentially. And it's an extreme concern to me as a department head, as a supervisor of someone who oversees all development in the unincorporated area of 211 square miles. I would just like to go on the record to have that said. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. I understand exactly. That's why we put 5 in, but the majority of the court only wants 2. So we're going to move forward on that. Mr. Cockley, I ask of you if you would. We will be going into closed session in just a bit. I would like for you to stay around if you could, if you've got the time to stay with us and go in closed session.
Sure thing, we'll do.
All right, thank you. All right. We've only spent an hour and a half on that one, so let's see if we can go a little quicker on the next one. Robert, this is your show for the next bit. This one is agenda item number 9, authorization to approve a resolution authorizing the creation of a stormwater drainage easement at 114 Creekstone Court in the Coolbrook subdivision.
Yes, sir. This has been a project that has developed over a long period of time. Since we began working with the property owners, the ownership of the sanitary system out there had changed. We had some ownership changes, and so once we nailed down and finalized our drainage solution based on extreme scour of overland stormwater flow, based on some survey information, it was determined that we needed to add an additional property to the project, which in this case is 114 Creekstone Court. The easement documents have been submitted to all the property owners. They've been reviewed by the county attorney. The property owner at 114 Creekstone has agreed to participate in this project, and this is the final piece of the puzzle. I've coordinated with John Mitchell at the road department. He's wrapping up a bridge project and hopefully can get to this one in the next few weeks. I recommend approval of this additional easement, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, let's not lose sight that Squire Booth has been out there many times and been in contact with the person there. And as a matter of fact, I think it was about 3 years ago when we were out there, Squire Booth, to look at it. And so it's taken a long time. There's been a lot involved with this, and I know that you and she will be very excited.
Yes, I'm glad to have it resolved.
Yes.
Very glad.
Okay, any more questions on it? Thank you for moving right along, Robert. Next item, authorization to approve a resolution authorizing the creation of a stormwater drainage easement at 105 Sugarwood Lane in the Leatherwood subdivision.
Yes, Judge, this is the result of a stormwater improvement project the county completed back in 2019. The Leatherwood subdivision was developed with a combination stormwater collection system of roadside ditches and pipes. The system in and around 105 Sugarwood, once again, was causing extreme scour in the property owner's yard. The county and the county engineer determined that it would be beneficial to the owner to reroute the system into a new pipe system. And therefore, I'm requesting that a drainage easement be accepted by the county to accommodate the outfall from the new relocation of the pipe system. There is a subsequent item just after this relating to the relocation. And I recommend approval of this new easement.
You want to go on and talk about the next item, the release of the easement too?
Yes, and so what we did is since we changed it from a road culvert to an open ditch system to a completely enclosed pipe conveyance system, we are no longer in need of the originally platted drainage easement. Therefore, based upon the property owner's request, I am presenting to the court a release of the easement that is no longer necessary because stormwater from the conveyance system no longer flows at this location. I do recommend approval, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, questions about creation of a stormwater drainage, and questions about releasing the stormwater easement?
Squire Booth has a question.
Squire Booth.
Yes, I understand that an easement prevents the owner of the property from improvements on the land that the easement is on. So is that the reason that the homeowner wants release of the easement?
I did not inquire as to the request for the release of easement. I will say that's not necessary for the county's purposes anymore, but I would also like to note that the only improvement that we generally allow within a drainage easement are fences, as long as they do not block the flow.
Okay.
But, you know, other than fences, you know, we generally do not allow anything else to go in there. But I would, you know, I don't blame their owner for wanting release of this easement because we don't need it anymore. And I think the county is happy to get rid of it. We're happy to release it, in my opinion. And I think the road superintendent would agree.
Okay.
Okay, nothing else. Next item is first reading of an ordinance amending ordinance number 8 adopted in October 1987 relating to the zoning ordinance in Franklin County. Robert, this is a first reading. What would you explain this one? Robert?
Yes, thank you. So my office was contacted by a property owner requesting approval and consideration of equine therapy in the northeast quadrant of the county. Equine therapy in this case was not therapy of the animal, but therapy for humans. Based on the standard industrialized classification system and our current land use table, I had to make an interpretation as to the use. Ultimately, I went to the zoning update committee and requested their opinion on it. And based on 2 meetings before that committee on August 4th and September 1st, that committee recommended to the planning commission that that the activity be added to the land use table as a conditional use in the agricultural zone as special noted condition number 26. And so the planning commission held a public hearing and has recommended approval to the fiscal court by unanimous vote that this amendment be adopted. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Squire Sebastian?
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Planning Director, I just wanted to ask a question. do any additional requirements, and I'm not sure if that's the appropriate term, need to be included with this item, like structures, paddocks, barns, fencing, pasture land? Does any of that need to be included? I just curious.
I would not believe so as part of the agricultural use. It's reasonable to assume that if the activity is going to involve horses, that they would provide the accommodations as such. If not, then that would be an issue for the animal control officer.
Okay. And as this is written, the way I understood it, there is no actual horseback riding allowed, correct?
Yes, ma'am. That was the testimony provided. This is not a riding stable or anything of that nature. This is all footwork of both the human and the animal.
Okay. I just know that there are many recent studies for children who are on the autism spectrum, that horseback therapy, and Judge, you'll know this from your special education background, that is a respected and has a lot of studies behind it as a condition to assist, or therapy, I'm sorry, to assist with those on the autism spectrum. So I just wondered if that was kind of the purpose. I didn't have the benefit of hearing the initial presentation. Thank you very much.
If I could follow up to Squire Sebastian, I believe what you're referring to could be allowed under a riding stable that is currently in our code. Based on the information provided by the property owner, this falls more under a mental therapy activity. There's a company out there that provides training, and I think it's referred to as eGala, and so this is somewhat of a different thing of its kind, if you will. That's why I had so much trouble categorizing it. But we were able to flush this out to a great degree, and I'm comfortable with this amendment.
Okay, Squire Tracy.
Thanks, Judge. Thanks, Robert. Thanks for everything on this. And I guess the way I'm going to ask the questions is how I was asked the questions. In regards to this, what's next? What's going to be allowed out there next?
So if the property owner chooses to proceed, two things must occur first. For this specific location, they must obtain a zone change as well as a conditional use permit. Based on the county zoning ordinance, those two items could be heard by the Planning Commission at the same time as the first public hearing of the zone change. Generally, the Planning Commission, if they recommend approval of the zone map amendment to the fiscal court, they would place a condition on the conditional use permit that the zone map amendment be approved. If not, then the conditional use is null and void. The zone map amendment would come before the fiscal court for your consideration. If the zone map amendment is not approved by a fiscal court, then the conditional use is not issued. If the zone map amendment is approved by the court, then I would issue the conditional use permit on behalf of the Planning Commission. After that, a business license would need to be submitted and signed off by the administration.
Okay, and then the next question that I received was in regards to if an individual that attends this business, if that individual is required to be registered for an offense, is anyone notified that individual may be using the services of this business?
That is not currently written within the regulation. However, I would draw attention to the amendment in which we intentionally provided language relating to therapy to individuals in the correctional system, so that these items could be discussed, or at least staff in the future would know to ask those questions. As part of a conditional use permit, the governing body, in this case, it would be the Planning Commission, has the ability to place any reasonable condition upon that permit that they deem necessary based upon the testimony. So the answer to your question is maybe. Things could be added as it relates to registration, registry, things of that nature, and I'll defer the rest of that to the county attorney.
If you're asking me, yes, you can add those as part of the actual use. That's different from the zoning designation.
That's what we're voting on, right? Just the
use and your voting
category.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, doke. Anybody else? All right. Next item is Robert, once again. Authorization to enter a memorandum of agreement with the Bluegrass Area Development District for land use planning and technical assistance relating to development.
Court, this is the Bluegrass Area Development District provides many services to local governments. In this case, I have requested that they provide services from their land use planning staff to assist my office in the review of an potential upcoming project in the county that both myself and the judge executive have deemed a conflict of interest. This agreement is a standardized agreement with the ad that they issue out to many other jurisdictions for this service. There is a cap on the fee, and that would be not to exceed $2,500 in a year, and this is based on a fiscal year time frame. This would allow an unbiased review of the project and would avoid a conflict of interest. I would recommend approval of this agreement, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Squire Sebastian.
Thank you, Judge. Sorry, it just takes me a minute to unmute it. I just had a question because we've heard a lot of passion from the court tonight about and to coin a phrase from Planning Director Copley about our brothers across the river, brothers and sisters across the river. So was there any discussion about maybe working with staff at the city, or were they too busy? Did that get floated first? Just wondered, because we've talked a lot about collaborating, and this may be a way to do that. Thank you in advance.
There was no discussion of requesting the city to perform this activity. The Bluegrass ad is based out of Lexington, Kentucky, and I felt it'd be best to avoid any potential future conflict of interest by having an outside agency perform this activity.
That was inside the area. I will say this, that many years ago, I built a home, still live there. It's in the county. I was a magistrate at the time, and Vicki Sewell was the planning and zoning director, and my inspectors came from Anderson County because they thought it was a conflict of interest, and I agreed with them, and they was fine. Okay, anything else? All right, let's move on. Robert, thank you. Get you a drink of water.
Thanks. You. I'll see you soon.
All right, thank you, Robert. Next item on the agenda is authorization to receive the treasurer's report. Susan.
Yes, court. I sent out a preliminary report, as I always do with the court packets. I'm happy to report that since then we have received $97,703 from the refinancing option for the Judicial Center. That has been placed as a miscellaneous receipt. And basically, puts us over budget in a revenue line item. So that's a good thing. Next court meeting, we should have our full quarterly report. So unless there's any specific questions, I'll leave it at that. I would like to just take one opportunity to revisit the issue earlier on the health insurance provider renewal. And I would urge court to vote to do so because I think it was lost in the discussion that if you change the, if you make a change on this, on the health insurance option, then it's going to have an impact on the other supplemental voluntary coverages that we offer our employees for vision and dental and life insurance and their cancer policies and so forth. And it would be a change to all of those providers as well. And that's where the big part of the administrative burden comes in, and also a burden to the employees for having to make those changes to their policies, which is why the committee had discussed trying to keep things as much status quo as we could this year, especially with such a good renewal price on the health part of it, health insurance part of it, and certainly entertain any further opportunities and more expanded opportunities such as our association provides at a future time, and just take the renewal for 2021 in the state of emergency. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Susan. Payment of bills. Susan, Ambra, anybody, any question on the bills? Okay, let's go to other business. I'll start off with other business. Squire Sebastian, I'm sorry.
That's okay, Judge. I'm sorry. I was slower in getting my hand up. I did have one question on page 2 about the IT data processing supplies. PC services, does that mean we just bought another PC?
No, PC
Because,
services. Oh, I'm sorry. PC.
I was just going to say, our treasurer has noted several times the software we have for certain reporting items doesn't really lend itself to being as descriptive as possible. So I was just asking because that's probably a PC or software or something.
PC services covers labor. If we need to have assistance with, if we have a server issue or some type of issue like that, if it were software, it would fall under a different category.
Okay, so what did we have some kind of catastrophic issue, or
which page is it under? The general fund?
Sorry, I had said page 2, account 0150197000 IT data processing supply.
Andrew, do you know?
Which I don't know. 5901. We have a
Andrew Tippett, do you know?
No, I don't know specifically what she's referring to.
5091. I heard somebody repeat the numbers. Kind of in a
for $502.50.
Yeah, that's one.
Okay, so that's for the month of, that's June 26th through August 31st. So that could be various issues. I've had, without pulling the bill, and that's the only way I can specifically tell you who that covered, but that could cover a variety of employees under our direction. I've had several issues with my email crashing. I've had to have several IT calls to come in and try to take care of that. So it could be any, it just mainly has to do with the labor of it. It doesn't have anything to do with purchasing software or purchasing any hardware.
It just is confusing because it says supply. That's all. It's just confusing. And as I had said earlier, I know the treasurer has told us numerous times the software sometimes doesn't lend itself to being as descriptive as staff would probably like as well. I do want to ask one other question. This rename log me in service devices, the 1875, is there a lot of work involved in that renaming devices?
Andrew, do you want to speak on what was involved with that?
So there was just some cleanup that needed to occur, where we've gone from basically having very few log me in users to, during the pandemic, we've had quite a few. So that was just a little cleanup.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank
Okay. All right. Let's move on to other business now. There are several things in other business. You received the letter that Mark Kopp sent. He sent it to the city as well. He's asking for some help with students in the Franklin County system that they're having trouble getting Wi-Fi, and so the city agreed to $5,000 out of CARES funds to go to the Franklin County schools to help. They said there are 98 students from the list that live in the city that don't have Wi-Fi. My total shows 249 students in the Franklin County school system that don't have Wi-Fi, and that the plant board is helping out to the best they can. That still leaves a hole. And so the city is working up an MOU with the schools, and we will piggyback on that MOU for $5,000 from the CARES Act to help as many students as we can with their video conferencing. And I'm sure you appreciate that, Squire Blackburn. So there'll be no excuses that my computer doesn't work.
Yeah, Judge, I'll have to agree with you that I think the number of 100 is a little underinflated there. It's more like 200, like you said. There's a lot of students that do have intermittent service, which can be as bad because they're not fluent with their studies and assignments.
And let me say this, God bless you for what you're going through, Squire Blackburn. I don't know how you do it, and all the teachers, all the other teachers too. Squire Tracy.
Busy.
Thanks, Judge Wells. I'm not sure, is Mr. Kopp on the line tonight?
He is not, no.
He's not. Okay.
No.
I just have a couple questions. Obviously, this is great. We definitely need to support the kids, but my questions would be, what are we doing for the families that are outside of the city, out in the rural areas, the far north, that, let's say, a hotspot doesn't work? What are we doing to make sure that those children aren't falling behind?
Well, there's, I don't have a total answer for that. That needs to come from the school system.
Right.
And I do know that there are several companies. AT&T is providing some type of service to help out if they qualify. There's a qualification on some of those. And so that's about all I can say. But I do know that also that the plant board is trying to help in every way they can to come up with hotspots for people as well. So we're as good as the community's working together to try to help as many students as possible. Squire Sebastian.
Thank you, Judge. I know, and I'm sure I wasn't alone in this, probably many teachers reached out at the beginning of the school year to probably a host of elected officials asking for information. And I know I had shared with the ones who had reached out to me that the Federal Communications Commission has a Lifeline program. Don't know, there are some requirements, but it would provide a specific amount of funding to individual parents so that they can take care of those needs, those IT needs. So I had shared that early on in the school year with teachers who had reached out, at least to me. And I'm sure many of you have probably had other things like AT&T and Verizon, things that they were certainly aware of. So I think the community as a whole, I guess where I'm going with this is everyone's trying to pull together to find solutions inside as well as outside of our community to take care of our neighbors here. Thank you.
Yeah, what we really need, as far as I'm concerned, is the federal government working with the state government to make sure that broadband is all over our country and gets to more places than where it is. And I'm hoping that will be the case as we move forward with some new monies, but that has to happen. So thank you all for your concerns and your comments. The next item on other business is census update. Andrew, do you have the census document we could show people?
sir, Judge. Let me share this with you.
All right. Is that where they would go?
Yes, sir. Census.gov.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have not done signed your census forms, please do. It means, actually, it could even help as the broadband starts to expand. It could help us with monies that could help families out. So I ask that you fill out your census form. If you haven't, Andrew, if you'll go back, thank you for that. Go back to that website right there and make sure that you please fill out your census. It means so much to all of us in this community. Thanks, Andrew, for pulling that up. John Mitchell, are you on?
Judge, can I say something to that?
Yes. Who said that? I'm not sure. Oh, Squire Moore. Yeah. Thank you, Squire Moore. Yeah.
I wanted to add that this year's census is the easiest I've ever seen. I've seen several pages before that want to know information that you really don't want to put out there. And this year's is simple, it's non-intrusive. There's no reason not to fill it out. I filled mine out the day I got it, and they're just simple. There's no reason not to.
Didn't take long at all.
It'll help our county and our state.
Thank you, Squire Moore. Thank you for your comments. John Mitchell, are you on? I guess John is busy.
He was on earlier, Judge, but he was having some audio issues, so I don't know if they ever got.
I'll have him come on next time. I want him to give everybody an update on paving, on what's going on. We'll have him on the October meeting, later October meeting, to give you an update on paving. Also, last but not least, we have movie night, October the 16th. Squire Tracy, you want to talk about that?
Did Andrew get a copy of the information that's going to be put in the local stores and businesses?
Squire Tracy emailed that to me right before the meeting, and I emailed him back, and unfortunately the pictures and attachments didn't come through. But if you can get that to me, I'll get it out ASAP.
Okay. Squire Tracy, go over the details of movie night, if you would.
Okay, October the 16th, there's going to be a movie night at Lakeview Park, free to the public. The gates will open at 6 o'clock. I believe the movie will start at 7. Social distancing will be practiced. And the event is going to be sponsored. The movie is going to be sponsored by Traditional Bank, Kiwanis, the Sheriff's Office, and the Fiscal Court. So are all a part of the event. So again, it's going to be a free movie. The event's being sponsored by Traditional Bank. No cost to the taxpayers, and it should be a great night, and hopefully everyone can make it out.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Squire. Constitutional office, or is there any other business? Squire Moore, sorry.
Since John Mitchell wasn't available, I just wanted to put out there that they have pretty much finished up with the Goose Creek Bridge.
Oh,
they were
good.
going to blacktop, I think, this week. I don't know if they got that done yet or not, but that's all they liked was blacktop.
Good.
Looks good.
Yeah, that's great. Seeing no others, let's go to constitutional officers, department reports. Anybody? Any constitutional officers? Any department heads? Okay, seeing none. The next item is authorization to go into closed session per KRS 61.810, subsection 1, section F, for personnel discussion, which might lead to the appointment of an individual employee. So I would ask that Betty Jo, Eric Cockley, and Robert, if you all would stay on, other than everybody else, that the squires and the normal people that stay on. Is that correct, Tambra?
Yes.
Okay. This is the Franklin County Fiscal Court, October the 1st, 2020, voting session. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Squire Sebastian,
Here.
Squire Blackburn,
Present.
Squire Muller,
Present.
Squire Tracy,
Here.
Squire Booth,
Present.
Squire Moore, Squire Moore,
Squire Moore?
Here.
Judge Wells.
Here. Okay. Would you please stand for the pledge? And Squire Moore, would you lead us in the pledge, sir?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty, justice for all.
Squire. All right. First item is authorization approval of minutes from our regular meeting of September the 15th, 2020.
So moved.
Moved by Squire,
Second.
seconded by Squire Sebastian. Any questions? Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. Next item is authorization to approve health insurance provider for the county employees for the calendar year 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Court, I'd like to explain my vote. I think my efforts and yours too, through this process have been to seek out the best rates. But equally as important in seeking out the best rates is seeking out the best level of coverage. So to kind of paraphrase some of our broker's words tonight, he said, that he is recommending keeping the plan and things as they are, with the fewer changes, the better. And I think our treasurer even noted the same. So with that, I will vote yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
I feel like we owe it to the taxpayers of Franklin County and the employees of Franklin County to look in to the CAECO plans. And with that said, I'll say no.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
I appreciate Squire Sebastian bringing that up. I just wish CAECO would have presented that back and give us enough time to investigate that situation. Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. Next item is authorization to approve a $50 monthly wellness, non-wellness rate for county employees.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
It's my understanding that this screening is going to be done on site. With that being said, I vote yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. Next item is second reading and approval of an ordinance approving a lease for the financing of a project, providing for the payment and security of the lease, creating a sinking fund, and authorizing the execution of various documents related to such lease.
So moved.
Squire Booth,
Second.
second by Squire Moore. Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
I'm going to vote yes on this. And again, this is us utilizing the services of CAECO, which are vast. And in the past, we've had lots of kudos for CAECO providing services. So I'm pleased that they're able to step up to the plate and do this for us at a good rate. So I vote yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes, and I will say that CAECO has done a lot for us.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. Next item is second reading and approval of amendment to ordinance number 2-2020 related to the budget for the fiscal year 2020 and 2021.
So moved.
Second.
I didn't get, who seconded it?
Blackburn, I think.
Blackburn, okay. Moore and then Blackburn. Okay. Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes. Next item is first reading of an ordinance amending ordinance number 7-2001 relating to electrical inspections and fees. This will be voted on at the October 23rd meeting. The next item is authorization to approve amendment to the interlocal agreement with the city of Frankfort providing electrical inspection services within the jurisdiction of the city. Do you want to go over those changes, Tambra, to make sure?
I can't. So
Is everybody okay with the changes? Does everybody know what the changes are?
2A, 3A, and 3D.
There's personnel and length of the agreement, right?
5 years to 2 years, the compensation performance section, and the administrative code reference, which will probably change by the time we get this back because we're in the process of our codification that should be coming to you all soon also.
What we're talking about doing, those are just as Madam Clerk indicated, cleanup and modification of those languages to reflect the use of the phrase personnel as opposed to employee, to reflect administrative code as opposed to designate a particular portion of it, and address the inconsistencies with the phrase provide employees and expand that flexibility, along with the 2 years opposed to 5 years. Right. That's the ones I got. Those are my notes there, and a couple whereases and hosannas and all that kind of stuff.
Yes, and I will send it to you for verification prior to having the judge sign off and sending it to the city as well.
Yeah, we can clean that up tomorrow, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank
Are we having a yes or no vote on this tonight?
Yes, I'm getting ready to call it.
All right.
So I need a motion.
We didn't get a motion. Is there a motion to approve the amendments to the local interlocal agreement with the city of Frankfort providing electrical inspections?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Is that Squire Blackburn or Muller?
Muller.
Blackburn, he worked on it.
Okay.
Okay, Blackburn then.
Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
We've had a lot of good discussion on this collaborative effort tonight. I think we have certainly strengthened an agreement that this court inherited. We've made arrangements to not bind the future court, and I think those are positive things for our constituents as well as the body. So I'm going to vote yes.
Squire Blackburn.
Yeah, I want to thank the county and the city folks for coming together on this. Robert and Eric, y'all did a good job. I think we've been working towards a more equitable, contract that's going to benefit the entire community. So I'm good with it. I vote yes.
Squire Muller.
Yes.
Squire Tracy.
Yes.
Squire Booth.
I want to commend the director of planning. I know that we kept asking him to do this, and by golly, he did it. So I vote yes.
Squire Moore.
I also want to thank all those that worked on it, all the magistrates that had their input, and especially JW, all the pushing he did to get us in this direction. I do not like the 2-year provision, but I will vote yes.
Judge Wells.
So the whole point of this is to provide better service to our developers, our builders, the people in our community that help us grow. I've said that earlier, and I mean that sincerely. Working with the city is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. And when the city and the county can work together to help the entire community, we should be doing more of that. Today is an example of the city and the county working together to help all of those people that make our community grow. I don't particularly like the 2-year, but if we're going to change the personnel name, go to personnel instead of employee, the 2-year may be a better deal that allows, I hope, and I mean, like Squire Moore, I hope that doesn't change from from hiring somebody to doing a contract work, because that would be disastrous. We took a major step forward to helping the community. We would take a major step backwards if we started to contract this service out. But this would give a better avenue for the city, as far as I'm concerned, to get out of it if we were to take, this court were to take a disastrous move like going to a contractor. I vote yes. Okay, the next item on the agenda is Robert brought this up, is authorization to approve a resolution authorizing the creation of a stormwater drainage easement at 114 Creekstone Court in Coolbrook, which Squire Booth, many of us have been working on for a long time, including you. I give you kudos, Squire Booth.
Thank you. I move that we approve this resolution.
Okay, seconded by Squire Sebastian. Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Can't hear you, Squire.
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells,
Yes. The next item is authorization to approve a resolution authorizing the creation of a stormwater drainage easement at 105 Sugarwood Lane in the Leatherwood subdivision.
So moved.
Second.
Lambert Moore.
Squire Moore,
Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells,
Yes. Next item is authorization to approve a resolution authorizing the release of a stormwater drainage easement at 105 Sugarwood Lane in the Leatherwood subdivision.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells,
Yes. Next item is first reading of an ordinance amending ordinance number 8 adopted October 23rd, 1987. The Fiscal Court Order Book, page 15, page 31. Fiscal Court Order Book 15, page 31, relating to the zoning ordinance in Franklin County, Kentucky. This vote will be on October the 23rd. That was first reading. The next item is authorization to enter into a memorandum of agreement with Bluegrass Area Development District, otherwise known as Bluegrass Ed, for land use planning and technical assistance relating to development.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded by Squire Booth. Discussion? Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells,
Yes. Next item is authorization to receive the treasurer's report.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells,
Yes. Next item is payment of the bills.
no motion,
I'm waiting.
no motion to,
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. You normally put it on. Okay. I don't see any, is there anybody that doesn't want to pay a bill? Okay, seeing none, bills will be paid. Next item is authorization to go, I'm sorry about this earlier. The next item is authorization to go into closed session per KRS 61.810, Section 1, Section F, personnel, discussion which might lead to the appointment of an individual employee. Okay. Sorry, those that we took you out, brought you back in, now taking you back out. Okay, we're back into open session. I think he's getting the table back on. Okay. We're in open session. The next item on the agenda is authorization. We don't have to, we've already taken care of it. The next item on the agenda is authorization to hire Marty Antle as electrical inspector.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, discussion? Call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
I'm going to have to vote no because I had requested about a year and a half ago to run that RFP, and I was just hoping to see if something came out of it. No harm, no foul. So, thank you.
Squire Tracy,
In the contractors that have reached out to me in regards to inspections and so forth, and how other surrounding counties that are booming, continuing to grow, and so forth, and the way they handle their inspections, I would have really liked to have at least observed or studied the idea. So with that being said, I vote no.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought he said yes. Okay. Yes for me.
Wells?
Yes for me. Sorry, Squire Moore. Okay. Next item, last item, authorization to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, call the roll.
Squire Sebastian,
Yes.
Squire Blackburn,
Yes.
Squire Muller,
Yes.
Squire Tracy,
Yes.
Squire Booth,
Yes.
Squire Moore,
Yes.
Judge Wells.
Yes, we are adjourned. Wear your mask.
Hey,
We are
man,
adjourned.
y'all be careful. Be safe.